Shrikant ji, turn on your video, please. Mohak ji, Shilpi ji, you need not be there, then you log out. Shrikant ji, please turn on your video, all the panelists. Rahul Singh ji, Rishabh Arora ji.
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का लोगों में निवेश इन्वेस्टिंग इन पीपल और नवाचार में निवेश इन्वेस्टिंग इन इनोवेशन के विषय में आयोजित की जा रहा है।
Other ministries.
Kindly, all panelists, please turn on your videos and keep all microphones on mute. ये सब ये भी हटा दो, ये मेरे टेबल पे और रख दो। I still see many cameras off, please. Rahul Singh, Director DA, Rajkiran ji. I see the link in investing in innovation, many mute cameras there. Kindly turn on your cameras, please.
It's an empty hall, enhancing state government invest in infrastructure.
ये कौन सा है ये enhancing state government investment in infrastructure? That hall has been empty ever since we began our panel discussion.
That could be taken off, please.
इसको हटा दीजिए ना, वो जो enhancing state government investment
वो
right
CTO
side में. एक घंटे से चल रहा था सर, तो थोड़ा आपको अलाइन कर, आप बैठिए सर, मैं थोड़ा करा देता हूँ। हाँ ठीक है। बस सर अभी 3 मिनट में शुरू हो जाएगी सर।
सेक्रेटरी
हेलो
वो
चेक
करो
वन
ना,
टू थ्री
करना जैसे मेल पे जाए मेल सर
हेलो हेलो
Kindly turn on the cameras, mute the mics, please. We still see a lot of blank cameras. Session 7, Gaje. I see Mr. Manish Jain, Yogesh Singh, VCDU. Thank you. Hari Kumar Janki Raman. Rahul Singh, DA, still, I think, got camera down. There are some microphones on. Kindly turn them. Sir, kindly turn off your camera, sir. Gopi, sir, please. There are a few others. Deepak Singh, I think. Deepak Kumar Singh.
Dominic ji, Shilpi ji,
I'm seeing again a blank camera. Shilpi ji, Jane
Dominic.
Dominic. There are two blanks. Session 7, Gaje, INC HQ something.
NLC HQ, that is NLC.
Acha. There is Deepak Kumar Singh. Kindly turn it on. जी सुरेश गोपी जी. Deepak Kumar ji, kindly turn on. Thank you. Munish, NIC headquarter. Devashish plus Prusti. I'm just reading out names, please don't mind, but these are the blank screens we see. There is one Mr. Ray. I'm not able to read the name clearly.
Which one, sir?
In water cleanliness and sanitation, under that box. Ministry of
Rajni Ranjan Ray.
Ministry of Ports, the chair is empty. Kindly.
There is Isha. Water cleanliness and sanitation, there are 3 speakers, panelists who are not putting on their mics. Can that be immediately? Shilpi ji,
just at the side so I'll join in right away.
Thank you. Thank you. Once again, I request everyone to turn on your cameras, please, and mute all the microphones. Primarily, all the secretariat offices have been given the links for microphones, so kindly ensure that they're all turned off. We will be receiving the presence of the Honorable Prime Minister in just a couple of minutes. So kindly, all of you, please be in your seats. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. माननीय माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का हार्दिक अभिनंदन। बजट घोषणा 2025-26 के बाद आयोजित की जा रहे पोस्ट बजट वेबिनार में मैं आपका हार्दिक स्वागत करता हूं। यह वेबिनार अर्थव्यवस्था में निवेश, सुगम जीवन और सुगम यात्रा यानी इन्वेस्टिंग इन इकोनॉमी, ईज ऑफ लिविंग एंड ईज ऑफ ट्रैवल, लोगों में निवेश यानी इन्वेस्टिंग इन पीपल और नवाचार में निवेश इन्वेस्टिंग इनोवेशन के विषय में आयोजित किया जा रहा है। इस वेबिनार का उद्देश्य सभी संबंधित हितधारकों स्टेक होल्डर्स को सरकार के दृष्टिकोण से अवगत कराना और उनके रचनात्मक विचार जानना है। इस वेबिनार में 29 मंत्रालय, 29 सत्र में लगभग 100 पैनलिस्ट और 25,000 से अधिक प्रतिभागी शामिल हैं। इस वेबिनार में बजट के 43 अनुच्छेदों पैरा पर चर्चा होगी। अब मैं माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी से अनुरोध करता हूं कि वे हमारी मार्गदर्शन करें।
नमस्कार, आप सभी का इस महत्वपूर्ण बजट वेबिनार में स्वागत है, अभिनंदन है। इन्वेस्टिंग इन पीपल, इकोनॉमी एंड इनोवेशन, ये एक ऐसी थीम है जो विकसित भारत के रोडमैप को डिफाइन करती है। इस साल के बजट में आपको इसका प्रभाव भी बहुत बड़े स्केल पर दिख रहा है। इसलिए यह बजट भारत के भविष्य का ब्लूप्रिंट बनकर सामने आया है। हमने इन्वेस्टमेंट में जितनी प्राथमिकता इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और इंडस्ट्रीज को दी है, उतनी ही प्राथमिकता पीपल, इकोनॉमी और इनोवेशन को भी दी है। आप सब जानते हैं, कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग और टैलेंट नर्चरिंग ये देश की प्रगति के लिए फाउंडेशन स्टोन का काम करती है। इसलिए अब विकास के अगले चरण में हमें इन क्षेत्रों में और ज्यादा निवेश करना है। इसके लिए हम सभी स्टेक होल्डर्स को आगे आना होगा, क्योंकि ये देश की इकोनॉमिक सक्सेस के लिए आवश्यक है और साथ ही ये हर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की सक्सेस का भी आधार है। साथियों, इन्वेस्टमेंट इन पीपल का विजन 3 पिलर्स पर खड़ा होता है: एजुकेशन, स्किल और हेल्थ केयर। आज आप देख रहे हैं, भारत का एजुकेशन सिस्टम कई दशक के बाद कितने बड़े ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन से गुजर रहा है। नेशनल एजुकेशन पॉलिसी जैसे बड़े कदम, आईआईटीज का विस्तार, एजुकेशन सिस्टम में टेक्नोलॉजी का इंटीग्रेशन, एआई के फुल पोटेंशियल का उपयोग, टेक्स्ट बुक का डिजिटाइजेशन, 22 भारतीय भाषाओं में लर्निंग मटेरियल्स उपलब्ध करवाने का काम, ऐसे कितने ही प्रयास मिशन मोड में जारी है। इनके कारण आज भारत का एजुकेशन सिस्टम 21वीं सदी की दुनिया की जरूरतों और पैरामीटर्स को मैच कर रहा है। साथियों, सरकार ने 2014 से अब तक 3 करोड़ से ज्यादा युवाओं को स्किल ट्रेनिंग दी है। हमने 1000 ITI संस्थानों को अपग्रेड करने और 5 सेंटर ऑफ एक्सीलेंस बनाने का ऐलान किया है। हमारा लक्ष्य है कि युवाओं की ट्रेनिंग ऐसी होनी चाहिए कि वो हमारी इंडस्ट्री की जरूरतों पूरी कर सके। इसमें हम ग्लोबल एक्सपर्ट से मदद लेकर ये सुनिश्चित कर रहे हैं कि हमारे युवा वर्ल्ड लेवल पर compete कर सके। इन सब प्रयासों में हमारी इंडस्ट्री और एकेडेमिया की सबसे बड़ी भूमिका है। इंडस्ट्री और एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूट्स एक दूसरे की जरूरतों को समझे और उन्हें पूरा करें। युवाओं को तेजी से बदलती दुनिया के साथ चलने का मौका मिले, उनको एक्सपोजर मिले, उन्हें प्रैक्टिकल लर्निंग के लिए प्लेटफॉर्म मिले। इसके लिए सभी स्टेक होल्डर्स को एक साथ आना होगा। हमने युवाओं को नए अवसर और प्रैक्टिकल स्किल्स देने के लिए पीएम इंटर्नशिप स्कीम शुरू की है। इस योजना में हर स्केल पर ज्यादा से ज्यादा उद्योगों की भागीदारी हो। हमें ये सुनिश्चित करना ही है। साथियों, हमने इस बजट में 10,000 अतिरिक्त मेडिकल सीटों की घोषणा की है। हम अगले 5 सालों में मेडिकल लाइन में 75,000 सीटें जोड़ने का टारगेट लेकर चल रहे हैं। सभी प्राइमरी हेल्थ सेंटर्स टेलीमेडिसिन सुविधा का विस्तार इन सब क्षेत्रों में हो रहा है। डे केयर, कैंसर सेंटर और डिजिटल हेल्थ केयर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के जरिए हम क्वालिटी हेल्थ केयर को लास्ट माइल तक पहुंचाना चाहते हैं। आप कल्पना कर सकते हैं इससे लोगों के जीवन में कितना बड़ा परिवर्तन आएगा। इससे युवाओं के लिए रोजगार के भी अनेक नए अवसर बनेंगे। इन्हें जमीन पर उतारने के लिए आपको उतनी ही तेजी से काम करना है। तभी हम बजट घोषणाओं का लाभ ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोगों तक पहुंचा पाएंगे। साथियों, पिछले 10 वर्षों में हमने इकोनॉमी में इन्वेस्टमेंट को भी फ्यूचरिस्टिक सोच के साथ देखा है। आप जानते हैं 2047 तक भारत की शहरी आबादी लगभग 90 करोड़ तक हो जाने का अनुमान है। इतनी बड़ी आबादी के लिए प्लान अर्बनाइजेशन की जरूरत है। इसके लिए हमने 1 लाख करोड़ रुपए का अर्बन चैलेंज फंड बनाने की पहल की है। इससे गवर्नेंस, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और फाइनेंशियल सस्टेनेबिलिटी पर फोकस किया जाएगा और प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट भी बढ़ेगा। हमारे शहर सस्टेनेबल अर्बन मोबिलिटी, डिजिटल इंटीग्रेशन और क्लाइमेट रेजिलियंस प्लान के लिए जाने जाएंगे। हमारे प्राइवेट सेक्टर को, खासकर रियल स्टेट और इंडस्ट्री को प्लान अर्बनाइजेशन पर फोकस करना चाहिए, उसे और आगे बढ़ाना चाहिए। अमृत 2.0 और जल जीवन मिशन जैसे अभियानों को भी आगे बढ़ाने के लिए सभी को साथ काम करना है। साथियों, आज जब हम अर्थव्यवस्था में निवेश की बात कर रहे हैं, तो हमें पर्यटन की संभावनाओं पर विशेष ध्यान देने की जरूरत है। पर्यटन सेक्टर का हमारी जीडीपी में योगदान 10% तक होने की संभावना है। इस सेक्टर में करोड़ों युवाओं को रोजगार देने की क्षमता है। इसलिए इस बजट में घरेलू और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय टूरिज्म को बढ़ावा देने के लिए कई फैसले लिए गए हैं। देश भर में 50 डेस्टिनेशंस को टूरिज्म पर फोकस करते हुए विकसित किया जाएगा। इन डेस्टिनेशंस में होटलों को इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का दर्जा दिए जाने से ईज ऑफ टूरिज्म बढ़ेगा, स्थानीय रोजगार को भी बढ़ावा मिलेगा। होम स्टे के लिए मुद्रा योजना का दायरा भी बढ़ाया गया है। हिल इन इंडिया और लैंड ऑफ द बुद्धा इस अभियान के माध्यम से दुनिया भर के पर्यटकों को आकर्षित किया जा रहा है। भारत एक ग्लोबल स्तर का टूरिज्म एंड वेलनेस हब बने, इस दिशा में प्रयास किए जा रहे हैं। साथियों, जब हम पर्यटन की बात करते हैं तो इसमें होटल इंडस्ट्री, ट्रांसपोर्ट सेक्टर के अलावा पर्यटन में दूसरे सेक्टर के लिए भी नए अवसर हैं। इसलिए मैं कहूंगा, हमारे हेल्थ सेक्टर के स्टेक होल्डर्स हेल्थ टूरिज्म को प्रमोट करने के लिए इन्वेस्ट करें। ये अपॉर्चुनिटी तो ग्रैब कीजिए आप। योगा और वेलनेस टूरिज्म के पूरे पोटेंशियल को भी हमें इस्तेमाल करना चाहिए। एजुकेशन टूरिज्म में भी हमारे पास काफी स्कोप है। मैं चाहूंगा इस दिशा में विस्तार से चर्चा हो और एक स्ट्रांग रोडमैप के साथ इस दिशा में आगे बढ़ा जाए। साथियों, देश का भविष्य इनोवेशन में किए जा रहे निवेश से निर्धारित होता है। भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था में आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस कई लाख करोड़ रुपए की ग्रोथ दे सकती है। इसलिए हमें इस दिशा में तेजी से आगे बढ़ना है। इस बजट में एआई ड्रिवेन एजुकेशन और रिसर्च के लिए 500 करोड़ आवंटित किए गए हैं। भारत एआई की क्षमताओं को विकसित करने के लिए नेशनल लार्ज लैंग्वेज मॉडल की स्थापना भी करेगा। इस दिशा में हमारे प्राइवेट सेक्टर को भी दुनिया से एक कदम आगे रहने की जरूरत है। एक रिलायबल, सेफ और डेमोक्रेटिक देश जो एआई में इकोनॉमिकल सॉल्यूशंस दे सके, विश्व को उसका इंतजार है। आप इस सेक्टर में अभी जितना इन्वेस्ट करेंगे, भविष्य में उतना ही एडवांटेज आपको मिलेगा। साथियों, भारत अब दुनिया का तीसरा सबसे बड़ा स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम है। स्टार्टअप्स को बढ़ावा देने के लिए सरकार ने इस बजट में कई कदम उठाए हैं। रिसर्च और इनोवेशन को बढ़ाने के लिए 1,00,000 करोड़ रुपए का कॉर्पस फंड पास किया गया है। इसमें डीप टेक फंड ऑफ फंड्स के साथ उभरते सेक्टर्स में निवेश बढ़ेगा। आईआईटी और आईआईएससी में 10,000 रिसर्च फेलोशिप की व्यवस्था बनाई गई है। इससे रिसर्च को बढ़ावा मिलेगा, प्रतिभाशाली युवाओं को मौका मिलेगा। नेशनल जियो स्पेशियल मिशन और अनुसंधान नेशनल रिसर्च फाउंडेशन के माध्यम से इनोवेशन को गति मिलेगी। भारत को रिसर्च और इनोवेशन के क्षेत्र में नई ऊंचाई पर पहुंचाने के लिए हमें हर स्तर पर मिलकर काम करना होगा। साथियों, ज्ञान भारतम मिशन, और मैं आशा करता हूं इस सब में आप सब आगे आए। ज्ञान भारतम मिशन के माध्यम से भारत की समृद्ध मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स हेरिटेज को संरक्षित करने की घोषणा बहुत ही अहम है। इस मिशन के माध्यम से 1 करोड़ से अधिक मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट पांडुलिपियों को डिजिटल फॉर्म में बदला जाएगा, जिसके बाद एक नेशनल डिजिटल रिपोजिटरी बनाई जाएगी, जिससे दुनिया भर के स्कॉलर्स और रिसर्चर्स भारत के हिस्टोरिकल और ट्रेडिशनल नॉलेज और विजडम को जान सकेंगे। सरकार द्वारा भारत के प्लांट जेनेटिक रिसोर्सेज को संरक्षित करने के लिए नेशनल जीन बैंक की स्थापना की जा रही है। हमारी इस पहल का उद्देश्य आने वाली पीढ़ियों के लिए जेनेटिक रिसोर्सेज और खाद्य सुरक्षा को सुनिश्चित करना है। हमें इस तरह के प्रयासों का दायरा बढ़ाना होगा। हमारे अलग अलग इंस्टीट्यूट्स और सेक्टर्स को इन प्रयासों में भागीदार बनाना चाहिए। साथियों, फरवरी में ही भारत की अर्थव्यवस्था को लेकर आईएमएफ के शानदार ऑब्जर्वेशंस भी हम सबके सामने हैं। इस रिपोर्ट के मुताबिक 2015 से 2025 के बीच, 2015 से 2025 के बीच, इन 10 वर्षों में भारत की इकोनॉमी ने 66% की, यानी 66% की ग्रोथ दर्ज की है। भारत अब $3.8 ट्रिलियन की इकोनॉमी बन गया है। ये ग्रोथ कई बड़ी इकोनॉमीज से भी ज्यादा है। वो दिन दूर नहीं जब भारत $5 ट्रिलियन की इकोनॉमी बनेगा। हमें सही दिशा में सही निवेश करते हुए आगे बढ़ना है। अपनी अर्थव्यवस्था का इसी तरह विस्तार करना है और इसमें बजट घोषणाओं के इंप्लीमेंटेशन की भी बड़ी भूमिका है। आप सभी की अहम भूमिका है। आप सभी को मेरी बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं हैं और मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि पिछले कुछ वर्षों से बजट घोषित कर करके आप अपना कर लो, हम हमारा कर ले, वो परंपरा हमने तोड़ दी। बजट बनाते से पहले भी आपके साथ बैठते हैं, बजट बनने के बाद भी, घोषित करने के बाद भी जो चीजें सामने आती हैं उसको इंप्लीमेंट करने के लिए भी हम आपके साथ बैठते हैं। शायद जन भागीदारी का ये मॉडल बहुत रेयर होता है और मुझे खुशी है कि लगातार प्रतिवर्ष इस एक मंथन के कार्यक्रम को बल भी मिल रहा है, उत्साह से लोग भी जुड़ रहे हैं और हर एक को लगता है कि बजट के पूर्व जितनी बातें हम करते हैं उससे ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण बातें बजट के बाद इंप्लीमेंटेशन में उपयोगी होती है। मुझे विश्वास है हम सबका ये सामूहिक मंथन हमारे सपनों को 140 करोड़ देशवासियों के सपनों को पूर्ण करने में बहुत बड़ा रोल प्ले करेंगे। मेरी आप सबको बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं हैं। धन्यवाद।
Abhi se, sir, 2 o'clock, from 2 o'clock.
We have about 7 minute break.
Yes.
7 minute breakout session.
Within, by 2, we will start the breakout sessions. All the panelists are requested to start the breakout sessions, all the ministries. Thank you so much.
And so far as theme 5 is concerned, Honorable Minister Urban Affairs is joining us. He'll be here for some time to guide us and participate in the discussions. So we'll reconvene at 2 o'clock, please. Another 7 minutes from now.
I request all panelists and participants to please be seated. We start at sharp 2 o'clock. Thank you. The panelists are requested to please switch on your video. So good afternoon, everyone. So today we are sitting here for the post-budget discussion on the announcements that have been made by Honorable Finance Minister in the budget speech, and the breakout session that we are here sitting together for is on power sector reforms. And as Honorable Prime Minister Sir has mentioned in his address, that even the implementation of the budget vision and budget mission has to be in a participative manner. So it has to have all the stakeholders onboarded for not just the construct of the manner in which the scheme would be implemented, but also in the manner in which it is finally implemented. So please, I would request to please load the presentation. So I have a short presentation in which I'll be setting the context for the entire discussion. I hope that my presentation is visible. I would request to confirm somebody if the presentation is visible to everyone.
It's visible. We can see it.
Thank you. So please go to the next slide. So this was the budget announcement that was made in respect of power sector reforms. So the aim is to incentivize the electricity distribution reforms and to also incentivize the augmentation of the intra-state transmission capacity by states. So as we know that there's a lot of investment that is required to be pumped into the system to meet the growing power demand. And as was mentioned in the opening address, the safety of investments and a good return is one thing which the investor would look into. So for that, we need to have a improved financial health of the utilities, and also our capacities need to really develop. For that, we require investment, and the entire sector would be positive only if the utilities which generate the source of which are basically the source of revenue, they are positive. So contingent on these reforms, there would be additional borrowing to the extent of 0.5% of the state GSDP. Next, please. So the additional borrowing scheme was initially launched in FY22, and it was under implementation from FY22 to 25, wherein the distribution sector reforms were being mainly looked into, and based on the performance, the states were incentivized and allowed for the 0.5% of GSDP. Seeing the benefits, this additional borrowing scheme has been extended, and this is the broad procedure that we intend to adopt, wherein the states would be applying to the Ministry of Power and by 15th of January, and thereafter we would recommend to the expenditure for allowing the 0.5% of the state GSDP. It would be having a lot of mandatory entry conditions and performance evaluation criteria like the earlier scheme. However, there are certain amendments to the scheme that we intend to push this time. So today we are discuss on those issues. Next, please. So these were the parameters on which the states were evaluated earlier. So the DISCOMs were required to timely publish their quarterly and annual accounts. They were required to disclose government department dues with age analysis. There should not have been any uncovered revenue gap. The tariff should be paid timely and properly, and there should be timely tariff orders, and even the energy account should be submitted timely. Next, please. Thereafter, very important parameter was the state was required to take over the losses of the DISCOM in a graded manner. Then there were certain evaluation criteria in which one of them was the increase in the metered energy sale, and another was achieving the performance on AT&C loss and ACS-ARR gap parameters as per the trajectory that was agreed with the ministry. Then reduction of cross subsidy within the limits, and timely clearing of the government dues, and bringing the departments on the prepaid meter. So government department dues are one of the major, and including the subsidy, are two of the major source of or a component of the total revenue of the DISCOMs. So their timely payment is very crucial. So this was one of the parameters. Next, please. So these have been other than the additional borrowing scheme, there were schemes of RDSS, there was additional prudential norms. So all were in existence from FY22 onwards. And because of these multiple initiatives, there have been certain very promising trends which were seen in the performance of the DISCOMs. The AT&C losses and the ACS-ARR gap have improved from the financial year 21 figures. The discipline has come in the publishing of accounts, the issuance of the tariff orders. The uncovered revenues have been either completely done away with, or they've substantially reduced. Then there's a discipline in the payment of the government department dues and subsidies. And if we see over these years under the additional borrowing scheme, total losses worth rupees 44,000 crores was taken by the state government for the distribution utilities. Next, please. However, DISCOM viability is still a matter of concern. We all know that the accumulated losses and the debts are really high, and there is an increasing trend. Why there is an increasing trend? Because there is still existence of the AT&C losses and the ACR gap, and for that they need to borrow from the market to serve their work, to cater to their working capital requirement. There is an increased debt burden, and thus it gets into the debt trap. So a multidimensional approach and a continuous effort is required to nudge the states and to nudge the DISCOMs to continuously take initiatives to reform themselves and tread onto the path of viability. Next, please. Intrastate transmission is another thing which, in the view of the 500 gigawatt of renewable capacity that needs to be added by 2030, which requires good amount of infrastructure investment that needs to be made. Estimated amount is almost 2.55 lakh crore. For that, the states need to have a clear timeline. They need to really work on bidding out their intrastate projects as per the plan for 2030 by progressively by 2027. For that, there needs to be defined threshold TBCB limits. However, most of the states are already have already defined, but I would request, in fact, that most of the states in coming time they have their TBCB threshold limits in place and have a regulatory framework in place. STU listing is another important element that needs to be worked on, and all these would be incentivized under the additional borrowing scheme. This is what we propose. However, it is open to discussion today. Next, please. These are other few parameters which could be a part of the additional borrowing scheme, since, as we've discussed, that viability is a critical element. So 100% loss takeover of public sector discounts by the states. Mandatory compliance of FEPCA. The fuel power purchase costs are roughly 70% of the total expenses of the distribution utility. So they are very important. So timely recovery is very important. That's why we mandate, or we think that it should be a part of the additional borrowing scheme. Prepaid smart meter in the government establishment, as mentioned earlier, also it is a very significant amount of the revenue of the DISCOM. So we need to have its timely collections. So installing all establishments with prepaid smart meters. Defining a TBCB limit for intrastate transmission development with a regulatory framework. Compliance to the resource adequacy plan. Ultimately, if you want to make the DISCOMs viable, they need to have their power all tied up, and that too bringing the cost of the power low. So compliance to the resource adequacy plan is very important. Next. Smart consumer metering and smart system metering. We have already taken up this task under the scheme of RDSS. I'm hopeful that, you know, with the pace which is picking up for installation of the meters, soon this should be achievable. But definitely this needs to be an important parameter for the states to work on. And having increased weightage of AT&C losses and ACSR gaps, since these are two very important parameters, we need, if these are positive, then there would be no further increase in the losses and the debt. So they need to be positive, they need to be improved. Then we have certain bonus marks for the listing of state power utilities, bonus marks for development of tool for data analytics. We heard Honorable Prime Minister sir in the opening, in his remarks, that AI is something
this
that we need to
meeting
really
is
work
being
on.
recorded
So
and
data analytics
summarized.
is one thing which we need to really focus. It has a huge potential in the power sector. Another is the bonus marks which we can have for the intrastate transmission network development. And this is already an existing parameter wherein the bonus marks was awarded for the state which has privatized either a full or part of its DISCOM. So we would continue with the parameter. This is what we propose. So today we are sitting to discuss on these parameters. So next, please. So thank you. This is all from my side. Now I would request the panelists to come in. So we have with us Shri K. Vijay Anand, Chief Secretary and Special Chief Secretary Energy, Andhra Pradesh. Shri Vijay Anand is a 1992 batch IAS officer who served as chairman of AP Genco since February 2022 and CMD of AP Transco since April 2023. AP is one of the states which have been regularly taking additional benefit of additional borrowing scheme. So I would request Chief Secretary Andhra Pradesh sir to please come in and throw some light on the additional borrowing scheme and your suggestions on the construct of the new scheme. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Shashank, for setting the tone for this webinar, in particular about power sector reforms. I also thank Pankaj Agarwalji for chairing this session. And I also welcome all the other participants, Mr. Radhakrishnan, Alok, Ashish, A.K. Sinhaji, Rakesh Kumar, Rahul Chaurasia, and Suman Sinhaji, and others. First of all, since the time is limited, I didn't want to make any presentation. I just would like to take this 5 minutes to raise some points as far as the budget is concerned and about this FRBM related issues. See, generally, we are all aware that this sector is one of the most critical sector for the country, because this is the sector which everyone depends on this sector, be it social growth or economic growth or even their quality of life. All of us know about it. And you also know that we made a lot of significant achievements in this sector. Now we, in the entire country is touching more than 466 gigawatts from a humble beginning. And I think we can also claim that we are the best we are one of the best as far as the renewables are concerned. I think we have touched more around 46% in the country with a lot of reforms and progressive steps taken by the government of India. So, and as all of us know, this sector is one sector, this is a dynamic sector, and this sector requires a lot of reforms, and the reforms has to be continuous. We can't stop somewhere. It has to be continuous because the sector is changing on day-to-day basis. It is such a dynamic sector. But broadly, if we look at the kind of reforms in this sector, all of us know about it. If I say this will be repetitive only, but generally, one is the transmission loss reduction is one continuous reform we have to do. And as Shashank has said, financial viability of the DISCOMs is another thing. Unless the DISCOMs are financially viable, the quality of their supply and the quality of life will be definitely affected. Third is the way we are thinking about net zero, Government of India's commitment. I think we have to further enhance the capacities of renewable energy, which Government of India has taken a lot of progressive policies also, particularly Minister of New and Renewable Energy. And you have also talked about TBCB, that is the public-private partnership, wherein all of us together to try to develop the sector. And all of us know consumer is our God, and continuous engagement with consumer satisfaction is also important. These are all the fields where I think we should have continuous reforms. And I am also thankful that the ministry is looking in all these aspects on continuous basis and guiding the states. If we come to the recent budget, this budget specifically, they addressed these two issues. One is the augmentation of intrastate transmission. The second is the additional borrowing space to ensure that states and DISCOMs will become more viable, financially viable, and they will also be forced to implement reforms. Thereby, the DISCOMs' health also improves, and there some sort of discipline will come in the system. DISCOMs also will be looking twice while they take some decisions, be it financial decisions or be it other decisions. We also know that the DISCOMs, if we look at the entire country, the sector's borrowing has increased to more than 7.5 lakh crores, which is an alarming thing for all of us. And key measures which to restore the viability, as I mentioned earlier, revenue management is one thing. The power purchase cost has to be reduced, and we have to optimize the scheduling in such a way that we use the available electricity in an efficient manner. Then second, all the state governments, timely subsidy disbursement, whether we agree or not. Now, a lot of states, majority of the states are giving a lot of subsidies, be it to the agriculture or to the even domestic customers who are having less than certain number of units, or scheduled cash, scheduled drive, the weaker sections who get some sort of subsidy, and then even aquaculture and others, maybe even some, maybe artisans also, some of the states are giving some sort of subsidy. But the timely payment of subsidy is also vital for the DISCOMs for their survival. And then though tariff rationalization is another issue which is another thing. Over a period of time, it has to be that DISCOMs, if they have to be viable, then this tariff revision is another thing. And of course, whether it is state government or Government of India, the strengthening of infrastructure, whether we modernize the grids, the smart meters, and integration of renewables. These are, of course, the ministry has taken a lot of steps in this direction. Now, You also know that this intrastate transmission has become very crucial for us now, because now country has become a one grid, one nation. With this, there are a lot of generation is coming up in different states. In some places hydel is coming, in some places wind is coming, in some places tidal energy or offshore wind is coming, and places like Andhra and other Rajasthan and other places, lot of solar is coming. Whereas generation is at one place and consumption is in some other places. So to have an effective management, to have an effective balance, to balance the grid, there is a need for augmenting interstate transmission. Maybe ministry has to look at it and encourage states to come up with new proposals and programs, plans, maybe for next 5 years, 10 years period, how they are going to modernize their grid, how they are going to enhance their transmission capacity. It is within the state or outside the state. Because if there is a problem at one state, it affects the national. Because now it is one nation and one grid. This is one thing. And second thing, because of this renewable penetration, the grid is also becoming unstable at some point of time. So this is also important for us to look into this aspect, and modernization of grid has become essential now. But the one thing is, though we are looking at TBCB as a route, the other routes also can be explored. This is one route. Maybe HAM also is another aspect, and supporting the state network may be another aspect. Maybe ministry should look into the other aspects also. But at the same time, whenever a state is taking up some of these kind of activities, ministry also should consider incentivizing the states for augmenting their intrastate transmission capacity, and it may be linked to their installed and planned renewable energy capacities. And now green hydrogen is coming up in a big way in some of the states. So this will encourage the states to promote the addition of renewable energy and also support meeting the nation's goal of 500 gigawatts and by 2030 and net zero by 27. Coming to the additional borrowing space, and you also know, and you yourself have mentioned that Andhra is also one of the state which is continuously getting this additional borrowing space by achieving some of the reforms which ministry has introduced. So I thank the ministry for supporting the state in this additional borrowing space for a period of time, and this has helped us to achieve a lot of milestones, and has been this additional borrowing has become a cornerstone in our journey towards progress and prosperity. For the past 4 or 5 years, the state is continuously getting these additional borrowing limits. We touched up to more than 23,000 crores in the last 5-6 years. Of course, this we are also. It is not that we are getting it as a gratis. By doing reforms which are essential for the viability of the sector as a whole, we also have taken a lot of steps. So, for example, if we look at the figures, it's only for the comparison. From 2021 to 23-24, our AT&C losses have improved from 21.9 to 11.8. Similarly, the ACS ARR gap has come from 1.4 to 0.36. And we are publishing regularly the audited annual accounts and quarterly unaudited accounts on a timely basis. And APRC finally is issuing tariff orders on regular basis. Not only tariff orders, they are also issuing the true-up orders also on regular basis. And another major step is state government is also providing the additional financial support and subsidy on a timely basis. And in some cases, state government also has taken over the loss in the first 1 or 2 years, more around roughly 2,000 crores. And finally, before I conclude, I just want to make some observations regarding these proposed guidelines. One thing is you have suggested some entry conditions, and you have also suggested some bonus marks also. One thing I am not very sure or very clear, will it be possible for the DISCOMs and they publish their quarterly accounts, audited accounts continuously? This is one thing I request the ministry to reconsider once again, because practically it may be an issue. See, publishing accounts, you also know, yearly publishing accounts, audited accounts, itself is a major task for any distribution company. So unaudited accounts anyway, quarterly they are publishing. But at the same time, I also understand discipline to ensure discipline and proper financial management. This is also essential. Maybe I request the ministry to look into it. In the beginning, can we do it on half-yearly basis? Some kind of thing. This is one thing I would like to suggest to the ministry. Second is there are some certain things regarding this true-up orders in the states. Some of the states are following these multi-year tariffs, MYTs. In case of MYTs, who are adhering to the MYTs, true-up orders will be issued once in a year. Once in 5 years. Actually, whenever you follow MYT, in case of a discount, distribution cost and other things, it comes once in 5 years. So whether this practice, if the discounts have to practice the same kind of model, maybe Minister also has to look into this true-up orders for that entire distribution infra and business, wherever the states are following the MYT orders. The third is on prepaid meters. You are saying that scoring on prepaid meters is basically calculated based on the total consumers of the state. See, but some of the states have only doing the part of the consumers. They are also in the beginning we are doing part of the state or part of the consumers are high value consumers. So it will be better if you work out the percentage based on the number of consumers, number of smart meters sanctioned by the state rather than the total number of consumers. Maybe at a later date, once this is streamlined, maybe states can be slowly persuaded to go for 100% smart meters over a period of time. And then these are, and also when we are evaluating the smart meters, their efficiency, I think as I mentioned earlier, wherever there is installed, they have to be evaluated rather than the total number of the consumers in the state. Then finally, privatization is one issue which in the additional bonus, this is one of the suggested reform. This, I don't know, maybe ministry has to look at it carefully because there are some discounts which are really financially very sound. Majority of the discounts may not be that financially viable at this point of time. I don't know, maybe I request the ministry to look into it. And finally, when the states are going for these kind of reforms, in addition to FRBM, the ministry also think on some other innovative ways of incentivizing the states. That's all from my side. I thank Pankaj once again for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijayanand. Now I request Sumant Sinha ji to offer his comments.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you to the MOP for arranging this session. Also, regards to all my co-panelists on this conversation, and of course, all the people from the power sector, regulators and policymakers. And before I start, let me commend them. Let me commend the whole power system in India for having really done a very good job at really planning the whole power sector in a very good way, effective manner, especially with the transition that is going on in a way where more and more renewable energy is coming in as well under the Honorable Prime Minister's target that has been set. So incorporating all of that into a dynamic sector, a complicated sector, a technical sector like the power area, I think is something that has really been a terrific job.
We lost your voice, Sumant. We lost your voice. And I see, please check. Are we audible?
About 25 gigawatts, which half is commissioned. The comments are basically the following: that number one, I think in this whole scheme, as we now move from the ISTS framework that we had and the REIAs that have been doing the bidding for new renewable energy capacity, that I think is fundamentally going to undergo a change as we look forward into the future. I think more and more now with the ISTS charges coming in on renewable energy, we will see more of the action shifting to the states, where the states will start procuring more directly. and also more capacity will be coming up in a distributed way across more states. Now that therefore requires us to make some changes in our thought process about how the sector should therefore be moving forward to get more renewables into the grid. One is the fact that through the REIAs, there was a very significant offtake credit protection or credit enhancement that was given to the developers like us. Now, as states start procuring more power directly, we will go back to the situation that we had in the pre-REIA or pre-SECI days, at which point we had to take direct exposure to the DISCOMs. Now, we have actually operated as a company in both of those environments for quite some considerable period of time. And the benefit that we got of the REIAs being there was actually considerable. It allowed us to get much longer term financing from a much wider variety of lenders, multilaterals, overseas commercial lenders, domestic banks and NBFCs, etc., and bond markets. And also it allowed us to therefore get lower cost of financing, which through the competitive bidding mechanism, we were able to pass on in the form of a lower tariff to the states. Now, as states start procuring more directly, our offtake risk will therefore be the state DISCOMs. And we all know that with accumulated losses of 6.5 lakh crores and debt of 7.5 lakh crores, that's a very different credit profile to be taking. So one of our suggestions would be, as part of this process of the revamped distribution scheme, can we build in or ask the states to build in some sort of a payment security mechanism, which can be made uniform or structured in a certain way that it has certain minimum, a certain minimum kind of support that is given to the PPAs that we get from the states. So I think that if to the extent that we can use some of the funds from this scheme for creating those mechanisms at the state level, I think it will eventually benefit the states themselves. And we are happy to come up with some thoughts as an industry on what some of those might be. And it will also be good to involve some of the lenders in this conversation. The second thing that has been touched upon earlier is the issue of the intra-state transmission network, because now, of course, we will be having to set up projects within the states. Therefore, we essentially need to ensure that there's sufficient distribution capacity available in the states across the country. Now, I don't know that a good analysis has been done as to how much capacity is available in the different states, and this transmission capacity has to obviously be available in the states in areas where there is land availability and also where there is natural resource. So I think that planning that has been done at the central level for the ISTS network, a similar planning needs to be done to the extent it has not already been done by the states, where we need to get the same kind of transparency that we have at the central level as to what are the plans for transmission network in the future development. Same thing, we need state by state, what is the plan of each state so that we can do our planning accordingly. The second thing is, just like we are able to request the ISTS network for setting up on a demand basis substations and transmission capacity, similarly can we have for each state maybe a smaller capacity, maybe 400-500 megawatts. If we have that capacity, then can we ask for bespoke connectivity to be set up for meeting our connectivity requirements. The third issue really is around RPO. We know that if we have the 500 gigawatt target set by the Honorable Prime Minister, then we need the states to be buying all this power, clearly, because they are the ones that distribute the power eventually. And currently, very few of the states actually meet the RPO. So one of the suggestions we have is that in the guidelines and the performance criteria, can one of the issues, just like there is the ACS ARR gap issue and the AT&C loss reduction, can there also be a criteria around following or meeting the RPO at a minimum threshold level, maybe 80%, 90%, and only then does that become a qualification criteria for the DISCOM to enter into this scheme? Otherwise, they will not qualify. So I think that will then make the whole evolution of demand for renewables a lot, potentially a lot better. The fourth point is really around parallel licensing. Now, we know that has been for distribution. Now, we know that has been a complicated topic, but our suggestion is that at least for new demand that is coming in, because we understand that for the existing demand, there are all sorts of complicated issues. But for new demand clusters coming up, whether it's for new IT parks or whether it's for new industrial parks or smart cities, Perhaps for those at least we can look at some degree of parallel licensing that can potentially also develop. The last point I would like to make is really around the fact that while a lot of the parameters I have seen focus on the issue of operational improvement of the DISCOMs, perhaps there is less emphasis given to the financial performance of the DISCOMs. Now, of course, one may make the argument that if the operational performance improves, then the financial performance will willy-nilly follow. But the financial performance also is a function of the tariffs that are set. And it's also a function of whether the state provides the subsidies that it is meant to provide to the DISCOMs. And very often, we know those don't show up in time or the tariffs are not revised in time. And so therefore, financial performance eventually does not improve. And so my suggestion is, can we not also in this scheme have more directly performance parameters which are financial in nature? Because those in some ways are a little bit downstream of operating parameters. We understand that operating parameters have to improve first and then only financial parameters will improve. But financial parameters will also capture the improvement in operating parameters. So perhaps it might be considered to improve or include maybe one or two financial parameters around losses and so on of the DISCOMs, because that will also then bring in the tariff aspect as well. So let me pause here. Those are my thoughts. And thank you so much for inviting me to give comments and share a little bit the perspective from a renewable energy standpoint for the distribution sector going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suman, for very valuable suggestions. May I request Radhakrishnan ji, ACS Energy, Tamil Nadu, to come in?
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Pankaj Agarwal ji, and all my, again, Vijayanand ji, and all the other very distinguished panelists. To save time, I'm not mentioning everybody's name. So actually, first of all, I start by welcoming that, this is being continued, but with a set of additional conditionalities. I would not like to repeat all the points which already my esteemed colleagues have already mentioned, but I would like to go a little bit deeper. When you look at Tamil Nadu, which is again number 2 as far as GSDP is concerned, power generation has not kept pace with power demand. The real issue now is slowly public side also the expectation has changed from accessibility to satisfaction. So this 0.5% which you are offering, while it is very welcome, unfortunately we need much more, and this is of course fixed to certain conditionalities. Why I am mentioning this is that the challenges which we face are that even now the incentivization probably could also be for how much of renewable energy, and especially including non-renewable energy, which you are able to add on our own source. So when I look at ballpark figure, Tamil Nadu, we spend on our own generation 20,000 and spend 60,000 crores on power purchase. And for my one Udangudi plant or one Ennore plant, I spent hardly 13,000 crores. So every year I spend 4 times setting up of 1,200 crore plant. But at present, the trend is that all states, including my state, seems to be very satisfied as far as we are able to manage purchasing power. So some incentive probably to encourage states to set up their own units so that the balance is not lost. At some point of time, if we become 70-30 or 80-20, depending on private power purchases and private suppliers, it will become a challenge. So that is one point which I wanted to make. Second is, as far as the other things are concerned, the Government of India's approaches encouraging renewable energy, everything is very welcome. Tamil Nadu, of course, ranks 3rd in solar capacity, wind capacity, we are doing well. Of course, intrastate and interstate, we have taken up the queue, and we are having a number of other plans which both supports intrastate transmission around 1,534, interstate transmission 2,221. My predecessors have been working very closely with Government of India and working on it. And again, Tamil Nadu being that coastal state, lot of data centers are coming. So that additional substation requirement is also there. Why I am mentioning these points is the challenge is that on one side, we need to keep on managing the demand. On the other side, we need also support to ensure that support not necessarily from the center by the state to invest in sector, not necessarily in improving transmission alone or distribution alone, but generation also. That is where I think, the states are slightly, though I am very too early to comment on it, seems to have been falling back on this because of gestation periods are more. We are not as smart as the way project management of private sector is concerned. So support to capacity building is another area which will be highly welcome, especially in monitoring and evaluation, where most of the states, at least my state, I personally feel, could improve in project management, but that could be one of the conditionalities. Coming to real conditionalities, I personally feel is that, support to, we generate a lot. Last week also on a day we generated 6,500 solar, but night suddenly it dips. And the gas blade plant, they have capacity to quickly generate, but again, cost is more. Solar, wind, suddenly it has the largest component, but between April and May 15th, we don't get. So, of course, we have, as advised by Government of India, we have gone for the battery tender, which will come through. Smart tender, we were really falling behind. We are now quickly, Government of our board has approved, and we are calling for a fresh tender in 6 packages, 6 groups. So that we should do, but we will be falling behind. The entry level condition is this thing. I'm very confident we'll finish that work, but we may fall back behind on that. So some concession to this, already I will not defend the delay, but we will request that, if it is take it or leave it type, so we might probably be eligible only for 0.25. So if the Government of India, if our intent is good, a mechanism to check whether the intent is good or just that it is just a reasoning. If the intent is good, if they make the entry level to 0.35, it will be a welcome step. That would be the next request. As regards two other things, already my watch is saying I have finished 5 minutes, but I'll just take few more minutes. Mandatory compliance of fuel and power purchase cost adjustment, and of course, states having installed prepaid smart meters. Since we are falling behind, we will definitely quickly take up government approvals on these things so that we can come back to you. The last point which I would mention is state to take over 100% of the losses is they are supporting us with subsidy, they are taking over losses. So if the overall gross loss is taken, whether our eligibility, even in the best case scenario of 0.5, which as far as your marking is concerned, I don't think we would probably landing up very close to 0.25 or below. So we have to make all efforts. It's a very encouraging thing that you are giving so much of condition for us to improve. But if we take up a net loss, it will be slightly better. There are a number of issues. I think 5 minutes is too short a time because number of other esteemed speakers are there. We will get back to you in writing on many of the issues, but we would request that the continued support of Power Ministry in the challenges which we do, mainly because of the fact that being second largest GST next to, I think, 1 or 2 states, one on the top, I will not say second or third or something, that's not the right point. We would obviously need power. We are aligned to what Government of India's intent is. We will quickly try to follow what is followable, and the rest of the things we'll get back to you with wherever policy issues are concerned. I once again thank the Ministry and Honorable Prime Minister for having this wonderful webinar, and I also thank others from whom we can learn a lot. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Radha. Now I move to Subhajoy Sen Gupta from AECOM.
Thank you very much, sir, and grateful for the opportunity to share my thoughts on this important topic. I think many of the points are already made here, but I think the journey of where we have come from in 21, I think the AT&C losses were about 21%. Now we are down to 15, 16%. You take it in absolute terms, it is equivalent to the output of a 20 gigawatt coal-fired power station. So this is actually we should feel good about the achievement in that respect. However, there's a lot more that still needs to be done in terms of taking RDSS to the next level. So in that sense, the Union Budget's recommendation of extending the additional headroom of 0.5 GSDP percent of GSDP is a welcome step. If we take the 12 largest states in India, that represents a line of funding close to about 80,000 crores, which is quite substantial. And different states are achieving or availing of it in different ways. So I wanted to share 4 or 5 points on how to continue to accelerate the journey around this, because it's important for this investment that the government is making. We have a clear return on that investment as well, and that the initiatives are funded, conceived, planned, and executed with the right quality and timeliness to give the achieved outcomes. And based on our experience of working at state level programs, there's a few gaps or opportunities that we see. One is that the funding is available. I think the support is there from the government of India. Often at the state level, there are challenges in terms of the quality of DPRs for projects can be significantly improved. We've seen sometimes that the DPRs are done in very short time scales and often without sufficient site level diligence. As a result, what is perceived, conceived in the DPR versus when the contractors go on site, there are big BOQ variations. So DPR is saying X, the contractor can say 1.5, 1.7X, and then that creates delays in the execution of projects. Unless we get the right, the projects get delayed. Similar contractor selection criteria, I think PQs can be tightened. We have a wide range of different contractors who come on board. Some of them don't have the financial muscle or the strength to be able to execute the projects on time, etc. Which we've seen in the on the transmission side in interstate projects that has become much better, and especially with as we are moving to TBCB, having the right kind of criteria both for developers and contractors is going to be very important. I think CMD, TNP, DCL mentioned about capacity building and project management, and I would add procurement processes as well at DISCOM level. There's quite a wide variation across these, and unless we get those right, the funding is available, but the results will not be achieved. I think the second point is as we are moving into stepping up significantly the transmission investments, and we've seen that there are multiple agencies that are involved in execution of projects, including local law and order, land, ROW, many other aspects. And as we are involving private sector parties, a coordinated approach, I don't mean a single window type of thing, but a more coordinated troubleshooting and debottlenecking approach is helpful. In that sense, I would suggest we consider at a state level a war room or a PMU type of approach, which as many of these states, there's a significant step up of the transmission investments that is going to be required. And with private sector coming in, dealing with multiple agencies, projects do get delayed, we've seen. So a single view of where different projects are, what's getting stuck, and where the state government can play a proactive role in debottlenecking and accelerating the projects. That would be my second suggestion. The third suggestion is, in addition to metrics around loss reduction and operational improvement, reliability is going to be an important parameter we need to focus on, especially as we see that there's advanced manufacturing, data centers, many such sources of load which are coming, which will require much higher reliability. So urban areas in India face something like 120 outages per year, about 130 hours of power cuts annually, compared to developed economies where some of these other economic activities exist. It's less than 1 hour of outage in a year or 2 years. There's a long way to go for that. Now, my suggestion would be that for the next wave of reforms, we include some targets and metrics on reliability, especially around urban areas where some of these loads are coming, and the right dialogue with regulators to allow for additional investments in improving reliability and quality of supply. And there are, targeted consumers in these areas are willing to probably pay a premium, because the alternate for them is to have expensive diesel generator set backups on site because the quality of supply is not reliable. So is there a way to think of a different kind of a high reliability tariff for certain targeted commercial and industrial consumers, which then can be used for financing the investments in building redundancy in the networks? Fourth area, which the Joint Secretary also touched upon, is the adoption of next generation data and AI technologies. We feel that the time is right to develop these solutions. Few areas like demand forecasting, where given the newer loads, increased AC load, growth of rooftop solar, smart meters, EV charging, etc., the demand is not going to be as linear as historical as it has been. So predictive analytics can help more accurately anticipate the demand, let DISCOMs optimize power procurement. asset lifecycle management. I think the basics are in place, so SCADA, DMS, etc. But building a layer of smart asset management and then smart meter data analytics. I think again, generally we found that the public DISCOM's awareness of some of these is very limited. Focus has been on physical meter rollout rather than really harnessing the power of data analytics and AI. And suggestion would be to have pick maybe 2 or 3 models or DISCOMs where the broad financial performance and the stability is good, and use these as models for employing a full stack of these solutions, and use those as reference points for other DISCOMs to learn from. We need to create a new ecosystem of digital solution providers. My last point is around the financial viability of TBCB. I think Sumant mentioned the fact that the credit risk profile is very different on these. One idea could be that along with maybe NIIF or PFC or REC, we build a pool of blended capital, including financing from multilaterals and DFIs, etc. Credit guarantee mechanisms, so the non-fund sources products, which also World Bank and ADB offer, could those be brought in to effectively reduce the credit risk of these projects? And then I think it was also mentioned alternate models like hybrid annuity, which has been used in the highway sector. Those could be some approaches for improving the bankability of the TBCB interstate projects, which are absolutely essential for connectivity for renewables going forward. So I'll stop here. I think a few points. I'll share this in writing with the Joint Secretary as well.
Thank you, Subhajoy. Now I invite Alok from ACS Energy Rajasthan.
Sir, good afternoon, sir, and thank you for inviting me present my viewpoint and from the state of Rajasthan, sir. And thank you to all the earlier panelists who have given a lot of inputs which are too relevant to the sector. Sir, I would try to not to repeat those things. So this basically focuses on distribution and transmission. I would like to raise the issue that there is a resource adequacy plan and we are working on that, and we need to integrate basically. See, we are saying a distribution company has to reduce the ACS ARR gap. But suppose there is no generation at lower cost, the task itself will be a difficult task. So we need to integrate the distribution system and the transmission system with overall generation scenario of the country. On one hand, our basic task is to increase the consumption of power in the country so that our economy takes the growth of economy. Everybody understands that is directly dependent on the energy consumption. So there is a need to integrate this to subject with the generation subject. On the issue of generation, sir, all of us know that we have committed to ourselves, and Honorable Prime Minister has basically asked us to do 500 gigawatt of renewable by 2030. Accordingly, sir, I would also request that if such a master plan is made for storage and for taking up more thermal, whatever is required for till 2047, this point shall also be discussed in detail. Maybe not today, but in some other forum, which will help us to meet the need of our country, and we will be able to do this. Sir, the other point that we are trying to help the DISCOM through 0.5% of the GST support, and these are all objectively created criteria. Sir, there is no problem in doing this, but once we start implementing many of the projects, input-based projects, and I'm happy, sir, that Ministry of Power has supported us in RDSS, distribution, feeder segregation, smart metering, and all the inputs. All these inputs, because of the process of selection of the vendors, the capacity of the vendors to implement these projects, these are some of the challenges we have to realize. Due to that, even the state is willing to give a push to these projects, like, sir, just for purpose of mentioning as an example, we awarded our smart meter project in the month of August. We are monitoring this project every Monday, but still I am not 100% sure that they will be able to implement it 2 years. So suppose it takes 2 years. State has done its job. The political will is there, but the implementation partner will take some time. So I think we need to have a realistic variation in the objective parameters. So whatever we want to achieve, it's very good, sir, that because I am connected to this sector last 20 years, the objectivity of the criteria has matured. And this is very good, sir. But some type of flexibility shall be there. Or maybe a committee of experts under your chairmanship or whatever you think fit, if they sit together and try to evaluate the performance of the states, see what best effort they are doing. If there is truthfulness and sincerity in implementation objective, then we should support the state, because our ultimate objective is to make all our distribution companies take them into profit, reduce the losses, and reach the world standards. So that is why I would like to have some type of midterm evaluation by a group which looks into the sincerity of the efforts of the state. Coming back to the transmission, sir, I am happy that in this reform, transmission has been added for a state like Rajasthan, which is trying to increase the renewable capacity. We are also supplying renewable power to the rest of the country, and we would like to reduce our cost of power by implementation of schemes of Government of India like Kusum, and at the same time, large-scale projects. We would be requiring around support for 34 gigawatt of transmission evacuation system in coming 4 years. We are planned, sir. We are doing work, but the support of Ministry of Power is required. So I would request you that one of the model, which is a tested model in highways, HAM model, that should also be introduced in transmission systems, sir, along with TBCB, because the TBCB in highway sector has not progressed these days, I think, and the number of vendors which we have in TBCB, sir, and the scale of work, we are saying 2,55,000 crore, maybe it will increase with increase in energy consumption. So this must also be considered, sir. I think I will not repeat any other points, sir. Once again, I will thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alok. And now I invite Rahul Tongia ji from CSEP.
My microphone is still okay. Thank you. Now it's unmuted. Thank you for inviting me to this discussion. As a scholar and advisor, I'll just focus on a few points building on what has already been said. And I will focus more on the DISCOMs, not on the transmission side, with two key areas and then a few suggestions. The first, stepping back, what Honorable Prime Minister announced and what Finance Minister talked about, there are pockets of these that have been tried in the past. We've had FRBM waiver, we've had performance targets, we've had reforms. What is different or can be different this time? And I think what is very good and gives possibilities, feedback loops. So for that, we really need a more innovative and flexible mechanism where we can not just evaluate on strict criteria. So there's two sets of criteria. One is what is instituted top down, but also states need a credible plan, because too often they'll sort of sign up and then dekhi jayegi. That sort of thing doesn't quite scale. So two main points. One, as we all recognize, and of course this group knows it better, cash is king. Now ministry has been spearheading cash-based accounting. Kudos to them. We've talked about it for years. But the DISCOMs are not thinking cash. They're very aware of cash, but that's tactical as opposed to strategic. So what cash can really do is liquidity can enable solvency. And I think that link has not been fully thought through. It's obvious that you can get cheaper debt. So arbitrage is a no-brainer. You can change the tenure. That's also key. But most importantly, free up cash to invest. So priming the pump is, I think, the lens that needs to be put in. The other reason cash is very critical is because a lot of the plans of the nation, including the 500 gigawatts of non-fossil, require upfront cash. They may save you down the road, but even if you install a smart meter, for example, there's an upfront cost which gives you savings down the road. So figuring out spare cash becomes even more important. And as the person who's been involved and helped set up the smart grid space of India, I can attest bottom up that smart meters are a long-term play. So the last sort of lesson from that lens is that we need to make sure we have realistic cash flow plans and expectations of what the technologies give us. The second observation related to this is there are two levels of fixes DISCOMs can think about from a cash perspective. Sumant Sinha talked a little bit about this, operational versus financial. But even within financial, I would suggest there are two layers that we could think about. The first is just simply, for lack of better terms, turnaround. So we want to stop being loss-making. AT&C loss reduction is necessary, but it's not sufficient. Tariffs is, of course, one other part. But the second part is cleaning up. So that's a balance sheet question. Now here, to use a crude analogy, my being out of shape or my paunch has been a years in the making or a decade in the making sort of a outcome. We should be realistic in how we can do it quickly, because even the turnaround, AT&C, so getting ACS ARR gap down to zero itself, we've done state by state analysis. For most states, it can be done in a few years, but there are some that it can't. But for most of the states, if you want to clean up, you cannot do it in a short time frame unless it's too painful. So that is why additional funds or inorganic funds may be required. And that's where these sorts of money should be examined for how they would be used. So at the very extreme, a cleanup could be required if you want to privatize a DISCOM. We saw that in Odisha. We saw that with Air India. Now, of course, I'm not saying you should clean up only if you want to privatize, but if you want to privatize, you will need to clean up. So 0.5% is a very large number, but most utilities or most states, DISCOMs put together, have higher than 0.5% debt. So is this risky? So the question really becomes, the amount is not the question, it's what it would be used for. So we do not want a bailout and we do not want moral hazard. Now, three suggestions in closing. First, we need transparent analysis, modeling, and pathways of change, because unfortunately, there is a tendency or a risk that people will see money from elsewhere and say, okay, let me get it and sign on the dotted line. But some of the numbers don't add up when you do it. Part of that relates to the heterogeneity, which is the second point, where states are. So for example, there are states with almost 300% DISCOM debt compared to GSDP. Now, that is not manageable in the same way as a state at 27%. So last, this entire exercise, I would suggest, should be viewed as a process. So this needs a lot of bottom-up effort. That is the hardest part. I mean, the ministry can only push top-down. So if states do their homework and say, I want to do something different, it's not only that the ministry, but also regulators need to come on board, because that's another missing link that we don't talk about as much. If some states want to be more aggressive, then they need to be both rewarded, but also supported. Sumant Sinha alluded to a bit of this, so that if you are, for example, trying to be more green, then it has a cost. Now, Alok ji mentioned this from a Rajasthan perspective. Some of these costs will need new frameworks on how we handle it. So just as one example, when we enter a world of surplus RE for certain time blocks in a day, which is a few years away, not today, but in a few years, you will have to back down. We will not have enough storage to use all of it, and we shouldn't. Storage is not there only to use all the surplus. But that backing down as a cost, it cannot or should not necessarily be borne entirely by one entity. So we'll need another framework to think about cash flows versus operational, especially in the high RE scenario, because risk and who bears risk and who is rewarded for that risk is that feedback loop that we need to look at. And a dual of that is we need to think about uncertainty. So the last point is, for all of this, we need integrated planning. Resource adequacy is just the first step, but there's more. And for that, we need human capacity enhancements as well. And a small request or suggestion from a scholarly lens or a nationally thinking lens. If we can have more stakeholders integrating, interacting, and better data access, then we can all be on the same page when we make assumptions or when we make claims or projections. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul. Now I request Ashish Goyal ji from UP Power Corporation.
Good afternoon, everyone. Respected Secretary, sir, all the colleagues from the ministry and co-panelists and all other participants. I'll come straight to the point, keeping the time in view. Sir, the emphasis for creating intra-state transmission capacity, huge investment is required. Ministry has issued guidelines for TBCB for 220 kV and above transmission system. My request is that Ministry also issues guidelines so as to enable us to have TBCB method in below 220 kV transmission system as well. Of course, we can do it, but if some guidelines are issued and we are given that option, it will enable us to use TBCB in below 220 kV system also, because this TBCB method is quite beneficial, provided we can load the resultant infrastructure immediately. So this will be a great help. The other thing will be, sir, a paper was circulated about asset monetization. So if SBD for asset monetization can be formed, you may form a committee and they can finalize the SBD for this. So various assets of transmission can be monetized, and this will generate resources for us. And we should be allowed to prepay the high interest cost loans, especially of REC and PFC, without the penalty. Moreover, more avenues for cheaper borrowing should be opened. We are currently forced to get loans only from REC and PFC. So other market players, banks, NBFCs, and other alternate investment funds, etc., they should all be enabled to lend to at least project financing in transmission, because the risk with transmission is much less with all the LPS rules and etc. in the book. And although not in this the subject of this webinar, but asset monetization of generation sector we should also think about, which will increase the efficiency as well as infusion of technology, which sometimes is difficult when it is under the state sector. So many assets can be refurbished and made amenable for RE and RGO and RPO. And a huge investment will be required there. So I requested that some kind of thinking on asset monetization in generation sector should also be started. As far as the guidelines for a proposed scheme is concerned, sir, my request is that the focus should only be the viability aspect of DISCOMs, and all other aspects of renewable transition and all other policy objectives that the government wants to achieve. Of course, there will be other policy instruments for that, but these guidelines should only focus on the viability of DISCOM. Privatization bonus, for privatization bonus 20 points have been kept. I would request that we need to be incentivized through takeover of the loans that the state government is going to take over during privatization, either through grant or interest-free loan scheme for 50 years, similar to special central assistance scheme. So this will incentivize the states to take on privatization of DISCOM in a much more vigorous manner, rather than Uday kind of scheme, which is floated from time to time, and the situation comes to back to the square one after 5 years or 7 years. So this will be a much more desirable thing, and the time is right. Market conditions are right, and I think we should emphasize more on privatization and not just keep it as a footnote in these guidelines, sir. The other thing is, sir, the start of the process of privatization should also be incentivized in some form or the other, and some points for that should also be may also be included. Sir, smart meter timelines are very ambitious. We have all awarded the projects. Even most of the project has been awarded to IntelliSmart also, for example, in UP, and earlier EESL was doing. So the major bottleneck is the manpower. Despite all efforts, these agencies are not being able to get the manpower in the market and get the required speed of installation of smart meter. So the threshold of eligibility or threshold of points being awarded, it should be relooked at, especially for DISCOMs where a large number of consumers are rural consumers, sir. So this is the thing. The other thing is to get the oil out of smart meter. We need strong data analytics, sir. Still, there are no use cases available. So my request is, sir, to make a expert group or industry come DISCOM partnership groups so that we can develop smart these data use cases, and then it can be shared with all the discoms. Because if each discom is trying on its own, I don't know where how far each discom will be able to travel in this direction, sir. Then there are many tariff-related issues, sir, which are in the realm of ERC. So my request would be to make that a part of rules, and national tariff policy, etc. They should be given statutory teeth in terms of rules so that they are implemented, sir. Sir, one big thing is that Electricity Act of 2003. Now there have been more than 22 years. We need to review it, sir. It was assumed that after Electricity Act of 2003, most of the discoms will be privatized and the regulator will rule the market. But the situation is not that. Most of discoms are in the state sector, and regulator has become super regulator, and they have become more like consumer and judicial activists rather than the market development institution that was envisaged in the act. So a revisit of Electricity Act 2003 and the role of regulators and the increasing tendency of litigation in this sector needs to be there, because what happens in litigation, huge chunk of money is tied up, and due to judicial pronouncement, ultimately discoms suffer because we have no way to recover that money from the consumers. So this whole concept of litigation heavy regulation needs to be rethought, and emphasis needs to be given on the viability of the whole sector, viability, development, and now new technology, AI, RPO, renewable things. This all should be given proper space in the new act. RPO by itself, yes, it is good, but too much of obligation should not be there. The market reality is, sir, the demand for night cannot be met by solar, and hardly there is any wind or hydro capacity available in the market. So we need to go large on the storage, and the VGF policy of states and center are creating a confusion, because whether it is a limited amount of VGF or whether it is unlimited amount of VGF, so the government needs to come out with a very, very clear policy. Either we are going to give VGF for unlimited amount of storage, battery storage or whatever is storage, or we are going to give none. So, sir, so that there is huge, I think if VGF is removed, then market will be open. There will be huge demand from everywhere, and the cost of battery storage or other kind of storage will automatically come down. And if we give VGF say for 5,000 megawatt hour or 10,000 megawatt hour, so then only that much of demand will be created in the market, and we will not be able to go full throttle on that, sir. The other idea is, sir, we are here saying that state borrow 0.5% of GDP due to these reforms. But that 0.5% borrowing is for what? To give subsidies or to give more freebies? So why not say we will have a scheme where you list a positive list of investments in power sector or whichever sector, and you exclude that from the borrowing limit of the state. So that will be, I think, a much more, I would say, more focused thing, that you are incentivizing the state to borrow more, but that additional borrowing is for those positive things and positive policy investments for which we really want investment to be done or reforms to be undertaken. So, sir, these are my issues which I had discussed with my colleagues for your. In the interest of time, sir, I'll close, and I would request you. We can give you more input in detail on any point that you would require. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ashish, for very valuable suggestions. I think Rahul and Ashish both have iterated this fact that this additional 0.5% borrowing should have some kind of end-use tie-up. I think it's very, very important, and it should not get frittered away in the form of freebies. So thank you so much. Now I request Mr. A.K. Sinha, Principal Secretary, Punjab.
to some suggestions, sir, in the proposed guideline for the said period, sir. The first is about the entry conditions, sir. So my suggestion would be, sir, that this should not be made very restrictive, sir. As sir is saying about the end use, that is a welcome step, sir. That should be done. Second thing I would like to emphasize, first we are saying, sir, the 100% loss will be taken over by the state government, sir, in case they are going to onboard the scheme. Then again, in some place, point number 8, we are writing then year -1. We should take the entire thing 100% and for the current quarter also. So it should be restricted to, sir, yearly basis, annual basis, because this is going to continue for 5 years. So in case, sir, any state is going to onboard, sir, so it should be counted for the year, sir. So suppose for this year, if the subsidy or any amount due from the government is not given, then that should be paid maximum by the next quarter of the next financial year, sir. So that if some slippage is there, maybe some odd, crores, that should be given by the government. Because otherwise also, sir, no state government will go for this loss taking of 100% because subsidy is counted only when it is given and received. Otherwise, it's not going to be treated as income received. So this is the first suggestion. Second, sir, as you know, sir, our state has now going forward for the smart metering and all other things, sir, as discussed in the last meeting also. So here we are saying about the government, all the buildings, 100%, I presume it is 100% prepaid, sir. I think it should be made, sir, for 2 years, 50% this year and next 50%, because already we are in the procurement and with any state which is going to onboard, sir, next year they have to submit the report. So this should be, because entry level should be smooth for everybody, sir, if they are willing to onboard. About the second, sir, this is the evaluation criteria, sir. Earlier also for the AT and C losses reduction, the 15 marks was given. Now it is increased to 25. And SES ARR gap reduction also it was 15, sir. Reduction in cross subsidy 20, and that was working good for everybody that way, sir. So I suggest that that should be retained, and next 50 it comes to total 50. For another 50, all other things as suggested that should be taken care of. But of course that the smart metering some time should be given, sir, because we have to tackle many things about the prepaid and other issues, sir. We are going whole up for this system metering, but that leverage should be allowed when they started doing it, sir, starts doing it. So I think they should be given some leeway to onboard the scheme. So this is in all my suggestions. Other things about the end use I submitted, sir. Maybe that can be linked to the capital formation. So as the government of India is also giving the capital special incentive scheme. So here we can always say the state government can use this money or 50% of it for the capital formation. So any project, not sir, we are not saying it should be only in the power sector sort of thing. It can be used anywhere for the capital formation. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, Sinhaji. Now I request Rahul Chaurasia from Ministry of Finance.
Respected Secretary, sir, and distinguished panel members. At the outset, I would like to highlight the significance of the Honorable Finance Minister's announcement in Para 60 of Union Budget 25-26 regarding power sector reform. The commitment to incentivize electricity distribution reforms and augmenting intra-state transmission capacity through additional borrowing of 0.5% of GSDP is a crucial step toward strengthening the financial health and operational capacity of power sector companies. As a representative of Department of Expenditure, I will focus on executional aspects of this additional borrowing schemes rather than the performance parameter, which is the Ministry of Power's domain. Firstly, on the execution of the scheme, the Ministry of Power had submitted a proposal to extend this scheme for another 5 years. However, in the last meeting with the Joint Secretary, Ministry of Power, Sasank sir, in the Chamber of Additional Secretary DOE, it was deliberated that since the budget announcement does not explicitly mention the extension period, It is currently limited to 1 year only. Hence, I urge Ministry of Power to resubmit the revised proposal with clarity on the extension period. Secondly, while reviewing the proposed revised guideline, it is observed that they do not fully incorporate the augmentation of intrastate transmission capacity, a key aspect of the budget announcement. This needs to be addressed in the revised framework to ensure alignment with the Honorable Finance Minister's vision. Another critical aspect regarding executional is timeliness. I endorse the Ministry of Power's proposed provisional procedural change to send recommendation to Department of Expenditure by 28th Feb. This will enable state to avail additional borrowing before the fiscal year ends and participate in the RBI auction in a timely manner. A significant movement over the current scenario where the recommendation often arrive too late in DOE for states to utilize the borrowing window efficiently. Lastly, while the revised guideline ensures fiscal discipline, it's equally important to make the provision practical and inclusive, as most of the states have pointed out this. The framework should encourage greater state participation to achieve broader improvements in the financial and operational health of power sector companies. I therefore request Ministry of Power to simplify certain provisions in consultation with the stakeholders to enhance the effectiveness of this initiative. To conclude, the Department of Expenditure remains committed to facilitate a smooth and efficient execution of this reform-linked borrowing scheme. I urge the Ministry of Power to expedite the submission of revised proposal, ensuring it aligns with the Union budget's focus area and enables states to leverage this opportunity effectively. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rahul. I think one of the major outcome of this post-budget webinar would be to revise the guidelines after incorporating the suggestions of the states and also the experts from the industry. So thank you so much. Now I request Rakesh Kumarji from Assam to come in.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir, and good afternoon, everyone. Sir, I would like to touch the brief facts about the Assam Discom. So, being a medium-sized Discom, and we are operating in northeastern area where we got a lot of interruptions during bad weather conditions and the difficult geographical area, and the consumer mix is also highly dominated by the domestic consumers. So, we are not having the much industrial or the other commercial consumers where we can get the definite revenue every month. So we are operating in very limited and difficult conditions. But despite that, let me inform the House that we are having 7 million consumers, and our AT&C losses has come down up to 15.5%, and we are maintaining the 100% billing and collection efficiency during 2-3 years. And the ACS ARR gap is also zero. And we have been able to reduce the accumulated losses by 400 crore during last 3 years. So our accumulated losses has come down up to from 1700 crore to 1300 crore. All this has been possible because of the conditionalities which are mentioned in the 0.5% additional borrowing scheme. So there is a strict condition, as well as the RDSS scheme. The pre-qualification criteria has also been helpful in achieving all these milestones as far as the APDCL is concerned. As per the direction of ministry, I would like to inform that we are very aggressive in implementation of the smart metering scheme, and more than 50% consumers are already within the ambit of the smart metering system in Assam. And we have been able to make the payment for the GenCos and to all the AMISPs as per the timeline, and we are not passing any cost to any consumer for implementation of the smart metering scheme. So we are maintaining the government guidelines, and let me give one input, sir, that because of the additional borrowing scheme, there is a pressure in the field units of the Discom that they cannot raise the bills on account of subsidy or the government billing So now they are doing the proper billing for the government consumer as well as for the subsidized consumers also. Earlier, there used to be the bogus billing or the billing at the flat rate to increase the billing efficiency and to get the exorbitant amount from the government to maintain their accounts and to show that they are efficient. But the conditionalities of RDSS as well as the additional borrowing have pushed the field units to operate in maximum conditions and to do correct billing as well as to collect the revenue from the billed consumers. And now the performance has improved to vast extent. And this is the basically crux which will maintain the financial viability of the DISCOM. So other than this, sir, I would like to say that the earlier panelists which have mentioned that a portion of 0.5% should be tied up for investment in the power sector from the government, other than their regular budgetary support, grant, or the loans, etc. So that's our submission, sir. Other than this, sir, the additional parameters which have been reflected by Joint Secretary, that we are agree to all the points, sir. Only 2-3 things I would like to propose which can be incorporated. First is that, sir, the TOD implementation, if that can also be made a part of the additional parameters for the bonus point. Secondly, sir, there is because of the PM Surya Ghar scheme is going on and there is a lot of target, the target have been fixed to the states, so we have to achieve that. So to push this scheme, sir, it can also be made a part of the evaluation, as well as, sir, because of the there is a difference between the urban and the rural consumer. The urban consumers are not having the rooftop, but they are also want to go for the green power. So we are introducing the peer-to-peer sale of the green energy generated by the consumers in other areas. So we are implementing that. So it can also be made one of the point for the bonus marking. If some states want to come forward, they can be awarded in this way. There is another significant component, sir, that the renewable energy installed by the state from own resources during the year. So that can also be made one of the part, because overall, sir, the renewable energy that will help in implementation of the TOD, the cheaper tariff will be available and the overall cost of the power will be reduced, as well as the load from the peak will be shifted to the day hours. So the states will be are also aggressive in putting the renewable energy. So I think that can also be made as a part of the bonus mark. So these are from our side, sir. Otherwise, for all the points we are agree. Only one thing, sir, that can be relooked is the listing of the state utilities, because that is the wider decision and that is basically the government level. It will be taken up. So we have limited role to play here. So this is from our side, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Sam. Now we have just 7 minutes remaining. So I would request if there is any suggestion from any of the interveners who would like to come in. We had certain states which indicated interest in intervening. Manipur, would you like to come in and give any suggestion? Please keep it short because we have just 7 minutes remaining.
Yes. Good afternoon, sir. Sir, I'm Shailesh from Manipur, Secretary, Commissioner Power, sir. Sir, so far discussion have been very healthy, and I'm happy and actually would like to extend that 0.5% GSDP has been helping us a lot, sir. Especially state has mobilized lots of revenue for us, sir. Earlier we had problem of subsidy payment and then state dues and all coming to the line. We sufficient support from state government also, sir. However, we have, sir, issue of interstate transmission concern, because we are now moving towards the areas where the consumer base is very less and it may not be very remunerable for TBCB basis and all. So I would like to know how can that intrastate transmission be incentivized under this scheme, sir? If any that panelist may guide us. Thanks.
Okay. Any other suggestion from any of the interveners? Kerala, would you like to come in? CMD, KCBL.
Hello. Hello. Is it audible?
Yep. Yeah, it's audible. Please carry on.
Okay. When the scheme is proposed to be completed on 25-26, and how long the scheme is proposed to be continued for additional borrowing scheme? The ministry.
So as mentioned, we are already working on the guidelines, and as of now, it is there for the current year, and we'll work on the extension of it further. So,
Okay.
thank you. Any other intervener? Bihar, would you like to come in? Because Bihar is indicated for the first time to come in for additional borrowing.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you so much for such an insightful webinar on this additional borrowing scheme. As far as previous guideline is concerned, I think we would be qualifying on most of the criteria because most of them are similar to what we have for RDSS. Now, we have not utilized this scheme for any previous year, and we want to use it this time. So if any of the panelists can suggest us how we should prepare our proposal, how should we go about it, and that would be very helpful. Thank you, sir.
Mahin, we'll help you in preparing the proposal, so that is not a big concern. We'll come in and support you. Do we have any others? Intervener in Himachal Pradesh, you are there? Telangana, MP. Any other suggestion from any of the states? Would REC or PSC would like to come in and suggest on this issue?
Sikkim, you may carry on.
So good afternoon, sir. I'm Secretary Power in Government of Sikkim. I thank MOP for giving me the opportunity to participate in this post-budget webinar on power sector reforms. And I have a question on state with power department pertaining to additional borrowing, sir. If the state with power department cannot go for listing, then why it's being kept under additional borrowing, sir?
We have taken note of your observation.
Thank you, sir.
So I think it's time to conclude this session. We have received many valuable suggestions. Some suggestions are beyond the budget announcement, but of course, all the suggestions are directed at making the sector viable and ready for meeting our NDCs of 100 gigawatt of renewable energy integration, while ensuring high quality 24/7 supply. Vijayanand particularly gave some insights on the criteria, and he gave some suggestions on simplifying the process, particularly the audit requirement for the quarterly accounts. Sumant Sinha ji mentioned about credit risk. Now with the ISTS waiver regime going under a transition, more capacity might come under the intrastate system. States might resort to direct procurement without the intermediation of REIAs. How exactly we are going to handle credit risk. Parallel licensing was also emphasized by him, particularly for the new demand centers, new demand clusters. I think this issue was also raised by Ashish from Uttar Pradesh. So I would like to clarify that the new electricity amendment bill is already in the works. We'll be shortly coming to you with a draft. Honorable Minister is in the process of reviewing the bill right now. Radha talked about like more of a state investment in the renewable energy generation and maybe the other forms of energy generation. We have taken note of that. Suvajay talked about like implementation challenges, the DPR quality, the QRs for the contractors, the capacity building for the utility officials, ROW challenges. I think transmission is right now facing serious ROW challenges in many states. Then reliability of supply was also referred to, and credit risk profile was also referred to. Alok mentioned like we must come out clearly on the storage. I think both Alok and Ashish were very emphatic about the storage. And Government of India should come up clearly on like, are we going to provide further VGF, or we are going to close the scheme maybe with some additional capacity. I think we'll come with clarity before the end of March. Rahul mentioned like, and also I think it was also observed by some of the speakers about financial viability versus the cash-based accounting. I think you mentioned cash is king. We very well appreciate, and you also mentioned about the end-use linkage for the additional borrowing. I think some other speakers also mentioned about it. Ashish talked about also an SBD for asset monetization and I think the data analytics. I think on the data analytics, I will take clue from what the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned this morning. We will support, I think tentatively we have taken a number for ourselves about 50 startups, which will help the distribution companies and other utilities in leveraging AI for improving their services and improving their revenues. There were other suggestions from the panelists. One suggestion was that RPO may not be overplayed, and some suggestions were there, I think, about the effective implementation of resource adequacy requirements. I think we have taken note of these suggestions, and we'll have to close this particular session and migrate to the concluding session. Thank you so much. Migrate.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
चलेगा 3:45 शुरू होगा सर.
Okay.
मैं मंत्री जी के लिए सर सिलेक्शन.
Concluding session will start at 3:45, so we still have time, 10 minutes time.
I need to prepare the things.
Okay, thank you. So we are closing the panel discussion and we'll wait for the Honorable Minister to join for the concluding session. Thank you.
You are entering the meeting now.
I think. Yeah. Yeah. I think Suman has to start, ma'am. Suman is starting. What happened? Suman का voice नहीं आ रहा. Suman, can you hear us? Suman, any problem?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear? Am I audible?
Yes, Suman, you are audible.
We can hear you. Excellent. So I think urban development is taking some time. So let me go with the summary of the discussion in the tourism breakout session. So some of the things that we have discussed are the criteria for selecting 50 destinations and the infrastructure status that has been given. The consensus has been on developing balanced destinations, which means that we pick destinations, existing destinations with high potential, and also balance it with emerging destinations focused on experience-based tourism. The second is the criteria for selection. We should look at infrastructure readiness and state readiness and policy support, especially on what the state is doing in terms of land availability, ease of doing business, and alignment with several other government schemes. The third is on that the infrastructure status will provide a reduced capital costs. It will improve capital availability, and therefore it can be a game changer. But this is something that needs to be applied with a little bit of caution. The fourth element that was also discussed was that we need to support local entrepreneurs when we develop these new destinations, to not only from an economic equity point of view, but also to bring the local flavor to the destination. That is very essential to make it authentic. The next is that we need to have a state competition to ensure that the best proposals are picked by a committee which is experienced and which is varied. One of the other themes that was discussed today was on connectivity to tourist destinations, where it was decided that a hub and spoke model should be developed to improve connectivity, including for these 50 destinations which need to be mapped. The other idea was to have stakeholder collaboration, especially to create, promote easy visa programs, stopover tourism, joint promotions, etc., which requires both the government and the industry to work together to enhance connectivity and to make use of the enhanced connectivity that we already have established. The third theme that was discussed was on performance-linked incentives for destinations, where the idea was to essentially zero down on basic infrastructure and safety. We need to encourage local bodies to be involved in managing the destinations better, and those destinations that are able to meet the benchmark standards should be given incentives, not only to support them in capital infrastructure, but also by way of recognition and rewards. The fourth theme that was discussed in the group today was on the availability of Mudra loans for homestays, where the discussion was on was to focus on more on rural homestays and tribal homestays, was to not to lose sight of the fact that digital discoverability and booking is key to the success of these homestays, and as to how we can bring that policy into play. And we need to have strengthen the open network inventory for them to be able to, as small players, to be able to reach out to the big market that is waiting for this. The fifth theme that was discussed in the discussion today was the skill development programs, and the idea was to provide hands-on training and paid skilling programs to ensure sustainable income. The idea was also to include financial literacy training as a way to make it a part of the training program that we have, and the need for establishing skill centers in rural areas and implement skill enhancement programs through industry partnerships, and to attract more women in the skilling initiatives that we have. The sixth sub-theme that we had was streamlined e-visa facilities and visa fee waivers. And the idea was to further streamline the visa format and to make a standardized format so that make it very simple for people to apply. The idea was also to reduce the visa processing times, which is already short. India does well, but to see if we can improve it further, and to look at potential markets where we could possibly look at introducing visa on arrival, and also to see if we can leverage artificial intelligence and digital technology to make the visa application and the processing more efficient. The seventh sub-theme we had was on medical and wellness tourism, where it was the discussion centered around branding and marketing being central to positioning India as a medical tourism destination, for which the industry and the government needs to come together to leverage upon India's strength in terms of affordable healthcare and pharma, which can be a major differentiator in the market. We also need to ease the visa processes and also utilize the missions, our overseas missions, to boost medical tourism. The idea was also to collaborate globally with industry bodies to take this initiative forward. And wellness and yoga infrastructure is something that we need to invest in aggressively to position India as a global hub for wellness. So this is the broad summary of the discussions that have happened across the several sub-themes which were in the tourism in the tourism breakout session. So may I now, if the others are ready, may I now request Sri Prasad Gadkari, Executive Director and Chief Strategy Officer of National Investment and Infrastructure Fund Limited, for giving us the summary for the session on PPP.
Thank you. So just like to intervene here if allowed to. You see, I have to leave for a, I'm going out of station. So can you allow the AS to do the summing up? Just wanted to request that. If Secretary Mahua is here.
Yeah, sure. Okay, excellent. Who wanted to do the summing up now?
No, if you are okay with it, I can do the summing up and then leave. If you are okay with it, this is post shipping and waterways.
Go ahead, but I'm not able to make out who is speaking.
Oh, it's
speaking. Suman, it is Secretary, sir. Ramachandran, sir.
Yeah, can you? Are we not visible? Just check.
Yes.
No, sir, you are not
Sir,
visible. That's the problem. But sir, yeah.
Which is why the convenience. But please go ahead, sir. If you're ready, please go ahead.
Yeah. So we actually had three different verticals. Three different verticals. One was on shipbuilding. The other was on MDF, the Maritime Development Fund, and the third was on taxation reforms. So on each of these, we've had many good suggestions from the participants. So I'll just give a brief overview. One is that the long-term financial assistance, cluster setup, and skilled manpower. These are the three key areas and adopt a global perspective rather than a regional perspective. That is what I've suggested, because we should not get bogged down by being a regional player within this South Asian, but be global. Then secondly, the historically shipbuilding has been supported by governments across the world, and therefore the announcements are all being appreciated by the industry as being a step in the right direction. Thirdly, the administrative process under the SBFAP, the suggestion was that it should improve. It's an existing scheme, so as a part of ease of business, it should be improved. Then there should be more streamlined coordination with center and states and amongst the central ministries for the policy implementation. That was another suggestion. Then the provisions to boost private shipyard participation. There was a feeling that there is more stress on government and public sector units, so there should be also support for private shipyard participation. Then the Indian tugs, the tugs which are imported but are deemed to be Indian, the request was that our green tug transition policy should be extended to the non-major ports also. Then on the support for domestic shipping through various avenues, including fixing orders, partnerships, building up the shipbuilding, repair, cycling facilities, etc. Many companies, including MS Maersk, etc., have expressed interest. So, it would facilitate this kind of support for domestic shipbuilding. The credit note that has been provided under SPFAP was recognized as a key step to boost ship recycling, because this ship recycling, shipbuilding. As far as the low-cost financing is concerned, the ship owners sought provision of vessel-based or asset-based financing, and one of the ways to address the above issues was suggested by NAVID, wherein they said a debt servicing structure which is linked to an index capturing the performance of the structure of the sector can be used rather than the Baltic index, and then the debt can be paid in an accelerated manner. Then NDF, large number of people complimented the minister and of course government for the MDF, which was recognized as a game changer for the sector, and there was a suggestion that the blended financial instrument structure, which is there in it's a new structure which is there across the world, especially in climate financing, that be used as one of modes of implementing the MDF. And on the taxation and other reforms, I'll list H2 supplement.
Sir, so in the panel discussion, the panelists had welcomed, the shipyards had welcomed and thanked the ministry, also the government, for advocating securing the basic custom duty exemption for shipbuilding and also ship break for another 10 years. This is 2.5% basic custom duty that is applied, and that has been widely welcomed by the whole group of shipbreaking association and the group. Then the very welcome step, and this has been a long-standing demand of the sector, is clear ships as infrastructure. So this is a very major game-changing announcement. This was recognized by the press, and for that the steps are to be taken that we have already started with those steps. And then the integrating taxation benefits offered in GIFT City under the IFSC structure, how the sector, the maritime sector, and particularly the inland waterway transport sector can take help of the tax exemptions which are available in the IFSC structure, and the tonnage tax, which is a new announcement for the water transportation vessels. Both combined, there will be huge benefit to this sector. So this was recognized by the panel. And they also made some suggestions about the duty structure. They feel that it is currently the inverted duty structure, so there are a lot of GST is locked in, which they are not able to utilize. So they made some suggestions on that. This issue will be taken up with the Ministry of Finance. And there was also a suggestion that there are some challenges they are facing due to BIS regulations on various imported materials which are used for shipbuilding. So those inputs which are not domestically available they are subject to anti-dumping duties, increasing costs, etc. So the view was that this disproportionately affects Indian shipyards. So this needs some kind of policy adjustments. Then the panel also discussed about a fee for recycling ships is required for industry sustainability. And it was suggested that vessels which are older than 25 years may be scrapped. And that view is suggested may be discussed and converted into a policy. Another point was about the there should be a relaxed timeline and other conditions in shipbuilding under Make in India policy. We are working on that, including the domestic content in shipbuilding. And the another major announcement in the budget was this year was about tonnage tax.
May I just intervene here? This is Vidyavati, Secretary Tourism.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. So since the time is finite and we have 8 groups to give the summing up, may I request you to keep it very crisp because you will anyway give a detailed report back to the DE.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That's the last point I was making, ma'am, about the tonnage tax scheme that has been extended to the inland waterway transportation. So this will usually benefit the sector of inland waterway transport. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Sir, apologies for we couldn't see you earlier, so that was why the confusion on who wanted to go first. I would request all the moderators to please limit their intervention to an outer limit of 5 minutes. Is Sri Prasad Gadkari now available to present the summary for the PPP mode, for the PPP breakaway group?
Yes, I can.
You have the floor.
I hope I'm audible. Yes. So I'm going to summarize
Yes,
the summary of 3 breakout sessions. The first was on PPPs. We had 6 participants and a very vibrant discussion. So here are the main highlights which came up. When it came to challenges around PPPs and the solutions, I think there were 3 or 4 main points. One was about quality and preparation, basically generally about the project preparation, the detailed project report, the feasibility report. If they are prepared well, then the projects get good bids and people are more interested. So one has to look at how governments across sectors, when they come out with projects, that is an area to focus on. The second aspect around challenges was around really enhancing the dispute resolution mechanisms, especially how can fast track mechanisms be there wherever there is a dispute, because these are invariably long-term concession contracts. There will be market changes, environment changes, global changes, and so as long as the contract should allow for some renegotiation, there is no unjust enrichment somebody should be able to do out of it. But at the same time, investment which has gone in from equity and lenders should be protected in a very timely manner. So that was another one. Then there was one around standardizing contracts and templates. To some extent, already that has happened, but at times one sees still some kind of a reinventing of wheel which happens in certain sectors. So if everybody can follow, several sectors are doing very well established bankable contracts are already there. And if people can use those same templates and similar formats, that makes life easier for everybody. So that was the third point. When it came to pipeline for states, I think clearly there were pipeline, the creation of pipeline for PPP pipeline for states is an important element. There is a strong interest from the market on that. And that kind of a pipeline will give a visibility to investors, lenders. So that was the consensus views. What will help is if we make this pipeline rich in terms of content. There has to be some kind of a database or data room should be there for every project. So there's detail available for people to appreciate and understand the projects well in advance. As well as, a lot of times investors plan their schedules for next 2-3 years, especially global investors. They have to decide where do they allocate their time. If we are able to give a visibility in certain sectors that next 2-3 years there's a good visibility, then they devote time, resources for these sectors and geographies. So we should focus on making these pipelines very rich in content. It will also help the lending community. For newer sectors, I think there is in principle interest in newer sectors, whether it's offshore wind, green hydrogen, but clearly risk mitigation and contractual framework has to be properly settled. There will be a need for handholding from the government through VGF, PLI schemes, those kind of mechanisms. Still, some of these sectors are commercially viable, so that will help. Asset monetization, again, is an important theme, and people are keen that more sectors see asset monetization. states should come up with asset monetization schemes because increasingly there is a benefit for them also. So that was an important element which was made. And lastly was on infra financing. There is a need for generating more sources and resources available. India has a fair amount of long-term domestic capital itself on insurance and pension side. How can we bring that capital into our infrastructure? That is an area to focus on. That was the suggestion. Then there were two other panels. There was one panel by DOE on the special assistance to states. This was attended by several states, including Andhra, Assam, Rajasthan, West Bengal. This session really focused on the benefits and the achievements under this model of SASCI, some of the challenges which have been faced, and they suggested some future reforms which can catalyze and really give a fillip to this whole scheme. Because everybody, I think, thinks that there are powerful merits in overall having this kind of a scheme. And similar points actually were resonating in our PPP panel also, that state PPP, actually there is a good interest if it can be done in a proper manner. The third panel was around the DPITs on PM Gati Shakti, and clearly there was a consensus that it will boost really three things: ease of doing business, by really providing data-driven decision making. It will reduce project delays. It will optimize planning. Then it will give a boost to employability by increasing infrastructure development, stimulating more investment, growth of several ancillary industries, and it will boost skill development. And the third was really it will boost PPPs. Some of it which I have already covered. It will really create new business models and help settle and create new viable business models in new areas. So that's a quick summary of the three panel sessions. Thank you.
Suman?
Thank you. So we will now have the summary for urban reforms. I would request Sri Sanjeev, Joint Secretary and Financial Advisor, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, for his summary.
Thank you, sir. Ours was breakout session 2, that is urban reforms, dealt with para number 57, 58, 59 and 72. The webinar was structured across 4 sub-breakout sessions. One was water, cleanliness and sanitation. Second was urban governance and municipal services. Third was creative redevelopment of cities. And third was cities as growth hubs. And total of 29 panelists have participated who have provided us with deep insights into the challenges and way forward. Throughout these sessions, the key challenges such as funding constraints, capability limitations, governance bottlenecks, and the need for better coordination were identified. Addressing these challenges requires a collaborative approach where public and private sectors work together, leveraging innovation, policy reforms, and strategic investments. The key outcomes of the webinar are as follows. First was the first and foremost suggestion that has come as cities should start identifying self-help projects to be pitched in under Urban Challenge Fund. That was the major announcement in the budget. These projects identified should be financially viable with predictable revenue streams through user charges, treated wastewater sales, or innovative financing mechanism like issuance of bonds, land value capture, PPP, etc. Examples of bankable projects can include revenue generation through definitive reuse of treated wastewater for industrial purposes, bio-CNG projects, waste-to-energy projects, use of renewable energy in water, and sewerage projects to save energy cost. Second suggestion that came was establishment of national level urban infrastructure promotion and investment unit at Mahua to facilitate project preparation and build the capacity of the cities to assess municipal bond markets, designing PPP projects and national multilateral funding. This unit would also facilitate the states in speedy closure of multilateral funding agreements. This unit shall monitor the requisite reforms at national level. Third, suggestions has come regarding prioritizing creative redevelopment of historic marketplaces and city core areas to boost economic activity by augmentation of legacy infrastructure. Identification of bankable projects in these areas and leveraging urban land as an asset by giving higher FSIs, reduce setbacks, etc. to support the projects and land value capture as a source of revenue for bankability. The fourth suggestion came regarding states to explore the innovative funding instruments like pooled finances, municipal bonds, and InvIT models. The fifth suggestion is regarding AI-based data governance as a major reform for efficient and transparent cities as a tool to be taken up. The next suggestion, sixth, that is a digital twin of cities for simulation to prevent urban flooding and central and context-based urban planning. The next suggestion was regarding each state should identify and plan for at least one regional growth hubs, ensuring a holistic approach to urban planning. These hubs should be planned in an integrated manner, ensuring seamless spatial, transit, and economic planning. A state should identify bankable projects for augmenting infrastructure in these areas and pitch them under Urban Challenge Fund. The next suggestion was regarding cluster-based municipal services for urban areas to meet the challenges. Please kindly mute the mic, please. The next suggestion was regarding cluster-based municipal services for urban areas to meet the challenges of shortage of manpower and capacities will be in right direction. Next suggestion was there should be a reform cell at the state level to drive requisite reforms in the urban realm and develop synergy amongst different departments. Suggestion has also regarding to establish a national level agency like Japanese Urban Renaissance Agency that can be created under MAHUA to build capacities at central, state, and local levels. The next suggestion is regarding sharing of risk with private partners in biggest challenges needs to be addressed. The last suggestion was regarding model concessionary agreement and model DPR should be prepared early so to hasten the process of projects. That's all from the urban reform side from the MAHUA. Thank you.
Thank you. May I now request the Ministry of Civil Aviation, Mr. Wolnam, Secretary, Ministry of Civil Aviation, for summing up the discussion on connectivity.
Thank you, Suman. The breakout session on connectivity, we had a very fruitful discussion on 4 topics which were shortlisted. In fact, we were happy that there were 503 participants, 503 who joined our breakout session. So we found it to be very fruitful. The first topic was on the RCS UDAN in the context of the budget speech, which said that a modified UDAN scheme would be launched, which would cover 120 destinations and project to carry 4 crore people in the next 10 years. So the progress of the RCS UDAN was presented and how it has the regional connectivity has now provided 619 routes all across the country. And in fact, the assessment at the end of it was that the RCS UDAN has helped in making aviation move from being an exclusive mode of journey to an inclusive mode of journey. It has democratized air travel. So this was the RCS UDAN, and a clear roadmap for moving forward was presented. Then we had our Chairman, Airport Authority of India, Shri Vipin Kumar, who presented on airport development in India and related infrastructure. So this was in the context of budget announcement about more PPP projects and also greenfield projects in some parts of the country. So he presented how the air passenger traffic growth provides a foundation for expanding airports in the country. If we go back 10 years, the number of passengers were about 11 crores, and that has doubled to 22 crores. And in the next 5 years, in fact, we expect and project that will further double again to about 40 crores. So definitely airport development is a top priority that has to be taken up. And he presented the full details of how airport development is to take place, the regional aspects and the support from the state governments in the context of the National Civil Aviation Policy 2016. So this was a very thorough presentation done by the Chairman, Airports Authority of India. Quickly then I'll move to the third topic, which was public-private partnership, where we had a colleague from the private sector, the CEO of the Hyderabad Airport Limited, Mr. Pradeep Panikar, who presented. And the key data is that we have made quite a progress on PPP on airports. In fact, in India today, we have 14 airports on PPP basis.
There are some of them which were AI airports, in fact 8 of them which have been now kept on PPP basis for the operation and maintenance. And there are also 6 state government airports and more upcoming, for example, the Noida, Jewar and the Navi Mumbai near Mumbai and the Bhogapuram in Andhra Pradesh. So the PPP portfolio in airports is very healthy. The benefits that the PPP mechanism provides to airports were also highlighted, including a more time-bound construction period and quality of services and the efficiency in operations, including the increases in the air traffic movements which have happened through the dynamism of the private sector. So this was the presentation on PPP. And the last one was by an operator of a RCS airline, which has been quite successful, Mr. Shimran Singh Tiwana, CEO of Star Air. He highlighted how earlier the traffic, almost 65% was in the 6 metro airports of the country, but now it has spread out to different parts of the country. And in fact, the various speakers also gave anecdotes on how the regional connectivity has provided people the ability to fly and the aspiration to fly, and that the upcoming modified RCS Udan would provide a very timely intervention to promote further connectivity to different corners of the country. So I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Sri Ashok Meena, Secretary, Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation, for the summary of the session on Jal Jeevan Mission.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We had a breaking out session on Jan Bhagidari in JJM and SBM, Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin. 3 panelists were there, apart from the Mission Director Swachh Bharat Mission, Mission Director Jal Jeevan Mission, and me joining the panel. More than 1,400 participants participated in the listening mode. Representatives from the state governments, union territories, rural WASH partners, that is NGOs, and the sector experts were also there in our post-budget seminar. Highlights from the panelists' discussion which came out, there was a unanimity that the extension of JJM and outlays for the Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin and JJM in the budget is a very welcome step, because the water service delivery to each household as well as the sanitation services delivery in the rural areas is very important, and it will go a long way in ensuring these 2 basic services are delivered. There was a consensus that the O&M, which has been announced to be the main focus, is the right priority for which the Government of India and our ministry will be issuing the detailed guidelines. They also highlighted the requirement of involving the community for water service delivery and sanitation services delivery through the village water and sanitation committees at the village level. Close monitoring by the districts rather than the central government and the state government was also highlighted by the panelists. So we are going to have district water and sanitation missions headed by the collectors to monitor them very closely on monthly basis through the use of technology, through the use of the dashboards at the district level. It was also highlighted that budget announcement and the budget outlays are one part, but the most important aspect which Honorable PM said in his speech was the implementation of the budget, and this is what we should be concentrating. The behavior related issues and the IEC aspects, behavior change related issues and the IEC aspects need to be given a specific focus in implementation of both the missions, for which use of technology and the social media should be increased. It was also highlighted that amount of water being used and is very high, and we need to conserve the amount of water which is used in the rural areas as well. Therefore, groundwater recharge and conservation of water through Jan Bhagidari and Jal Sanchay should become a main focus. The representative from the NGO, Mr. Madhavan from WaterAid India, also suggested to adopt 5 critical principles of inclusivity, generating demand through behavior change, instill the ownership among the community for managing the asset, inspire the faith and trust of for the quality of service, so that the people in general drink only potable water rather than the water whichever is available to them, and ensure that citizens' voice is heard. For this, he said that importance of contracts with clear accountability mechanism need to be worked out between the village water sanitation committees and the people who would actually be operating and maintaining the schemes. He also highlighted that left out households identification is an important area we should receive due consideration in the first few months of next year. Formal certification of handing over could be designed in such a manner so that the ownership of these assets rests with the community, was also highlighted. We concluded the panel by saying that the inputs will be taken into consideration for implementation. JJM and SBM Gramin both will ensure that preventive measures for reducing out-of-pocket health costs reduces in rural areas. Details of our recommendations will be shared in one-page format today, and detailed report will be given in a couple of days. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So now we really have very little time because honorable ministers are waiting and one of them has to leave for the airport shortly. May I request Mr. Shakil Alam, Economic Advisor of the Ministry of Mines, to give the summary on mining reforms. But please be very brief because we have very few minutes left.
I'll be short, sir. So thank you so much. So on the session on mining sector reforms, Secretary Mines had, chaired it. The online audience was around 380 and they included a wide array of stakeholders. We had 7 speakers in this session and they spoke on 5 aspects of mining reforms. 3 speakers are mining CEOs and they spoke about the imperative of mining sector reforms for greater investment in mining. One speaker is from the state government and he spoke about the experience of mining sector reforms already undertaken in states and their impact. Another speaker, he heads the Minor Mineral Industry Federation and he spoke about initiatives and gaps in state level reforms in minor mineral administration. The 6th speaker was from an academic institution, head of IIT ISM, which is engaged with the Ministry of Mines for the state mining index work. He spoke about the framework of the index, which has been finalized and shared with states. The last speaker is from an expert agency who spoke about a specific aspect of mining sector reforms, which is operationalization of auctioned mines. The speakers also shared innovative measures undertaken in mining operations and mining administration and regulation. The speakers, as well as the audience, online audience, raised certain issues on the exploration license regime, steps to expedite EC and FC approvals, use of AI in exploration and mining, e-management systems in mining administration, recycling or urban mining, and the need for uniform minor mineral policy across states. We have received other suggestions also, which will be examining them. These things. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. That was really quick. May I now request Sri Shashank Mishra, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Power, to give the summary for the breakout group on power reforms.
Good evening, sir. In our breakout session, we had 10 panelists and 4 interveners, around 1,700 participants who gave their suggestions and input, or who were in the listening. Announcement was related to 0.5% of additional borrowing for power sector reforms. And the scheme was welcomed by the participants, and there was a general understanding that the scheme should be continued for beyond a year, and the end use of the additional borrowing should be tied up with the sectors or with positive areas of investment. Then there was also this understanding which came out that the guidelines may be simplified to suit the state's baseline situations. There were certain other suggestions received with respect to the transmission projects that the ROW issues need to be handled on priority at the state level. The DPR preparation has to be made more diligent, and there should be strict qualifying requirements while selecting the DPR consultants. Another suggestion that was received was regarding that the center should be supporting the state. This was requested by the state that center should come in and support the states for initiatives being taken by them for privatization of the utilities. Another suggestion received was for parallel licensing to be brought in for the areas, especially for where new power demand is coming in, like IT park, like industrial park. RPO compliance may be included as a part of additional borrowing. This was another suggestion, and especially in view of the large-scale RE projects which are coming up. And smart meter data analytics need to be really pushed because that is the way forward for having power purchase optimization and for overall betterment of the power sector. So these were the broad suggestions that were received during the course of discussion. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Shashank, for keeping that brief. May I now know if the Honorable Minister for Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Sri Sonowal, is online? No, I can see civil aviation. May I now request the Honorable Minister for the Ministry of Civil Aviation, Sri Ram Mohan Raidu, for his address, for his intervention.
Thank you very much. I hope I am audible. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are. Please go on.
Okay.
Yes, sir, you are.
Honorable Ministers of Housing, Urban Affairs, Manohar Lal ji, Ports and Shipping, Sarbanand Sonowal ji, Jal Shakti, C.R. Patil ji, and other ministers who are connecting in this webinar, and the senior officials, industry partners and stakeholders, a very good evening to each and every one of you. To begin with, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the Honorable Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi ji, under whose guidance these post today, under his exemplary leadership, global partners and industry leaders look up to India's policies, progress, and its vast potential. We are the 5th largest economy in the world, and with the enhanced ease of doing business, ease of travel, and ease of living, we are going to be the 3rd largest economy in the next 5 years by 2030. Aligning with the vision, by 2030, we are also going to be the biggest aviation market in the whole world with enhanced ease of flying. Over the past decade, the NDA government has provided the much needed stability and the strength to the economy with groundbreaking reforms like Digital India, Make in India, Startup India, Skill India, which is paving the way for Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is self-reliant India. PM Modi's approach has always been rooted in inclusion, driven by the spirit of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Prayas. The post-budget webinar series also serves as a valuable platform for fostering synergy, encouraging industry, and also policymakers to gain deeper insights into budgetary provisions and economic policies. As the youngest cabinet minister in the cabinet, I look up to Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji as the pilot who is steering our India's progress like a flight towards Viksit Bharat. Under his visionary leadership, all of us have boarded this collective journey and we all have shared commitments. And as our captain mentioned in the initial address, investment in youth, innovation and the economy it will define the roadmap for Viksit Bharat. I believe our robust economy today is driven by strategic investments and strategic reforms we have made in the transport sector, logistics, and especially aviation in particular. 10 years ago, the aviation sector was facing challenges in connecting with regional and remote areas. Air traffic was mostly concentrated in the 6 major airports, leaving Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities unserved and underserved. But with the Prime Minister's path-breaking reform, which is Udan, Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik, we have added new routes and new airports to the civil aviation landscape of this great country. Udan has enabled 1 crore 50 lakh people, especially the lower income group and the middle class, to meet their aspirations for speedier travel. With an investment of 4,266 crores, the scheme has connected 88 underserved and unserved airports across the country, and we have operationalized 619 routes which were unconnected before. And inspired by its success, in the recent budget, Honorable Finance Minister has mentioned that we are going to extend the Udan scheme for another 10 years, starting from April 2027. And this is going to come with adding 120 new destinations in the next 10 years, which is going to benefit 4 crore people. Just like how the last 8 years we have seen 1 crore 50 lakh people being added in the Udan scheme, we are going to target 4 crore people in the coming 10 years. And the special focus is going to be especially on creating helipads, water aerodromes in the smaller airports and also in the hilly regions, especially in the northeastern region and also aspirational districts. The viability gap funding and infrastructural support of Udan is also supporting the rise of new startup airlines also, such as Star Air, India One Air, Shank Air, which is creating new avenues for regional connectivity. And the extension of Udan is also going to facilitate for more regional airlines, carriers with small number of aircrafts also coming into the picture. The growth is also supported by successful public-private partnership. Asset monetization by tapping into private sector efficiencies has allowed for increase in greenfield infrastructure creation and augmentation of facilities at our existing airports. Delhi Airport and Bangalore Airport are a very good example, and how we are being the number one in lot of. We are continuously being listed in the airports. So the PPP model has enabled us to bring in more investment into the picture and also improve the current facilities that we are providing at the airports. And I extend my gratitude to our Honorable Finance Minister for announcing the development of new greenfield airports in Bihar in the budget 2025, addressing the state's significant aviation demand at the existing Patna airport, and which is also nearing the saturation. And we have seen other airports like Darbhanga Airport, which has been a huge success for Udan, and we are seeing aviation grow like anything in Bihar. So this announcement is going to help us further grow the aviation footprint in the state of Bihar. Another significant announcement in budget 2025 that unlocks new opportunities for our stakeholders and the local economy is the emphasis on air cargo, which is growing at an annual rate of 10%. I believe development of air cargo hubs in the country would align with our Honorable Prime Minister's vision of connecting local to the global. He has always envisioned that the local products that we have, especially the perishables, should be on the plate of people across the world. And air cargo is a wonderful solution for that. And it was mentioned in the budget also. And we are going to take it forward by creating new opportunities for the rising e-commerce sector also in the country. Our airports are not just mere transit hubs. We see them as economic hubs with huge multiplier effect on job creation by supporting other sectors like tourism, infrastructure, real estate, logistics, agriculture, and many more. And the doubling of airports that we have seen in the last 10 years from 74 to 159 has unlocked immense potential for further investments in this sector. The annual number of air passengers has surpassed 350 million, enabling our airlines to place the largest order ever of more than 2,000 aircrafts. We have 300 delivered and 1,700 yet to be delivered. So you can imagine how much aircraft growth is going to happen in this country. And this rising aircraft inventory highlights the immense growth potential for MRO sector. the maintenance, repair and overhaul sector, for which we are providing strong policy support and fostering aircraft component manufacturing also within the country, so that we are going to become a holistic aviation hub across the world. And also the aviation sector, which is growing at more than 12%, there is also a significant opportunity for the training industry to develop highly skilled force to meet the sector's expanding needs. Let it be training of the pilots, let it be training of the crew, ground handling, maintenance, engineers, lot of other aspects. There is a huge potential for us to train our workforce, especially the younger generation, to come into this sector and get these jobs. And not only for the Indian domestic sector, but across the world, we can create that kind of capacity building in the country where people can come here and get trained for the aviation sector. And I believe that India is the land of limitless opportunities. And by investing in our economy, investing in the connectivity and investing in transporting sector, we can realize the complete potential. Just like valuable discussions and much needed exchange of thoughts we had today, we must come together and work as Team India. I once again heartfully thank our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji for sharing his visionary thoughts and bringing all of us together, from ministers to the stakeholders to the industry partners, and encouraging the sharing of ideas and collectively to contribute to the whole goal of Viksit Bharat. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your intervention, sir. May I now request the Honorable Minister for Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Sri Sarbananda Sonowal, for his address.
Namaskar. I am especially thankful to everybody taking part in this post-budget webinar 2025. And for this budget, I am especially grateful to Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji and also the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. And in this budget, whatever path-breaking announcement being made for the overall development of the country and also for the maritime sector, it is unique. Indian budget 25-26 has been a historic budget for the maritime sector of our nation. Never before has this sector been conferred with so many path-breaking policy announcements. This budget has a strong foundation to achieve the ambitious target set forth by Honorable Prime Minister through Maritime Amritkal Vision 2047, and would make India's maritime sector globally competitive. Maritime Development Fund, set up with a corpus of rupees 25,000 crores, will create a unique ecosystem to boost the much needed financing for ship acquisition, modernized port, increased indigenous and Indian flag vessel, reduce our dependence on foreign fleets and stem foreign exchange outflow. The fund will have up to 49% contribution by the government, and the balance will be mobilized from port and private sector. By 2030, Maritime Development Fund is expected to generate about rupees 1.5 lakhs crores of direct and indirect investment in the shipping sector, and will also lead to generation of about 11 lakhs new employment opportunities. Shipbuilding financial assistance 1.0 had been successful in boosting the indigenous shipbuilding industry, and there was a huge demand to extend the policy with few improvements as per the need of the industry. The revamped shipbuilding financial assistance policy 2.0, apart from addressing cost disadvantages, will also include credit notes for shipbreaking in Indian yards to promote the circular economy. Ships which will be scrapped in India will be given a credit note which can be used to adjust against the cost of a new vessel manufactured in Indian shipyard. This will boost Atmanirbharta in shipbuilding in India. Large ship above a specified size has been proposed to be included in the infrastructure harmonized master list. This will give a boost to the domestic shipbuilding industry, thus driving the Atmanirbhar Bharat agenda. Shipbuilding clusters have been proposed to be facilitated to increase the ranks, categories, and capacity of ships. This will include additional infrastructure facilities, skilling, and technology to develop the entire ecosystem. By way of a major step to boost inland water transportation in India as a greener and cheaper mode of transportation, the tonnage tax scheme, which is available presently to seagoing ships, has been proposed to be extended to the inland vessel registered under the Inland Vessel Act also. These measures would also improve the financial viability of shipping companies and also attract investment into the capital-intensive inland transportation sector. Considering that shipbuilding has a long gestation period, this budget proposes to continue the exemption of basic custom duty on raw materials, component, consumables, or parts for the manufacture of ships for another 10 years. The same dispensation is being extended for shipbreaking. This should make shipbuilding and shipbreaking in India globally competitive. Specific exemptions as available to aircraft leasing units has been proposed to be extended to ship leasing unit set up in International Financial Services Center. This will promote ship leasing activities in India. This proactive policy and taxation measures taken through Union Budget 2025 for the maritime sector will attract global players to India for investment. Induce technology transfer, promote scaling in ports, shipbuilding, ship leasing, ship recycling, and ship repairs, and help us not only become Atmanirbhar, but also become a top maritime nation in shipping and shipbuilding. Time has come for India to rise and reclaim its stature as a leading maritime nation. Historic increase in budgetary allocation for Ministry of Port, Shipping and Waterways. This year, the budgetary allocation for the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways has witnessed a historic, never before annual increase of 46% a year. As compared to rupees 2,377.49 crores last year, this year the budget allocation for the ministry has been increased to rupees 3,470.58 crores. For inland waterways too, the increase in budget allocation has been a massive 47.23% as compared to rupees 1,190.11 crores last year. This year, the budget allocation for inland waterways authorities has been increased to rupees 1,752.31 crores. Assistance to shipbuilding research and development has increased by 143% as compared to last year. Increased from rupees 150 crores last year to rupees 365 crore this year. For your information, let me tell you, this ministry has already had a very, very meaningful post-budget interaction with maritime stakeholders. On 27 February 2025, the ministry organized a post-budget interaction with maritime stakeholders at Mumbai with a view to obtain the maritime industry stakeholders' feedback and suggestion on the future roadmap for revitalizing India's shipbuilding sector in the light of path-breaking budgetary announcement concerning the maritime sector. The interaction was attended by heads and senior representatives from various shipyard associations, shipbuilders, ship recyclers, financing, leading companies, major ports, railways, Inland Waters Authority of India, head of shipping, PSUs, representatives from various infra and other ministries, custom, etc. So the Ministry of Port, Shipping, Waterways sincerely extend its gratefulness to Honorable Prime Minister and the Finance Minister for promoting this maritime sector in a great manner. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you for your intervention, sir. May I now request the Honorable Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs, Shri Manohar Lal Khattar, for his speech.
Dear participants, as you all know, India today stands as the fastest growing major economy, driven by a decade of structural reforms and a strong developmental record. With the vision of Viksit Bharat 2047 guiding us, the Union Budget 25-26 has introduced transformative reforms across 6 key sectors, including urban development and power sector. Further, Honorable Prime Minister has given us guidance to invest in people, economy, and innovation. All these 3 verticals have to be synergized to provide for smart and sustainable urbanization. I am delighted to share my thoughts on the theme investing in economy, ease of living, and ease of traveling. Friends, the Union Budget 25-26 focuses on urban reforms in governance, municipal services, and land and planning. In the power sector, it promotes electricity distribution reforms and strengthens intra-state transition. Furthermore, it proposes infrastructure ministries to develop a 3-year pipeline of projects that can be implemented in PPP model. Let me first share with you my thoughts on the urban sector reforms. It is estimated that the urban population will be around 90 crores by 2047, that is 50% nearly of our total population, which necessitates planned urbanization with the participation of private sector, especially in the real estate industry. Further, for a creative development, a new paradigm of partnership of citizen, urban local body, private investor, and public policy has to be evolved. Startups and self-help groups will have to be co-opted as partners to fill in the gap of capacities and technology. Moreover, urban planning practices should now become an integral part of every infrastructure project to attend to prevention of environment. One of the key announcements in this budget is to set up an urban challenge fund to implement the proposals of cities as growth hubs, creative redevelopment of cities, and water and sanitation. The rupees 1 lakh crore urban challenge fund will transform cities into economic growth hubs. Creative development of cities is one way of attending to this challenge. Rupees 10,000 crore allocated by financial year 25-26. This fund leverages private and institutional investments with government support capped at 25% of project costs. This allocation will enable the implementation of projects worth rupees 40,000 crore, which is going to boost urban growth and positions cities as engines of economic growth through integrated planning and sustainable financing. Friends, India's top cities currently contribute significantly to the national GDP, and strategic urban planning will further enhance their role as economic and growth hubs. Seamless integration of transport, utilities, and services will be ensured through convergence with ongoing programs like Amrit 2.0 and Jal Jeevan Mission. Sustainable urban development will be promoted with digital integration and green incentives. Redevelopment of underutilized urban spaces is essential for meeting the demand of rapid urbanization, urban regeneration projects, waterfront development, and revitalization and transit-oriented development will drive economic renewal. Mixed income housing models and enhanced civic amenities will ensure inclusive growth. Access to clean water and sanitation remains a priority as urban populations expand, with Amrit 2.0 continuing to drive universal water supply and sewage management, emphasizing water recycling, resource recovery, and smart governance. Financial sustainability will be ensured through municipal green bonds, structured tariffs, and public-private partnerships, enabling ULBs to expand and modernize infrastructure. I must say that with a challenge-based approach, Urban Challenge Fund prioritizes cities with strong financial planning and execution capabilities, and the success will be assessed infrastructure efficiency, economic impact, and sustainability. I would like to further add about immense potential of artificial intelligence to contribute to economic growth and use of artificial intelligence-driven economic solutions, as mentioned by Honorable Prime Minister in his address today. Friends, going forward, ULPs must enhance revenue generation, integrate artificial intelligence-driven monitoring, and adopt transparent governance measures. Now I come to the power sector. Friends, to realize the dream of a Viksit Bharat by 2047, availability uninterrupted power will be essential. Power is an absolute requirement for economic growth, driving industries, businesses, and innovation while making everyday life easier and more comfortable. Therefore, a strong, efficient, and sustainable power sector is not just essential, it is the foundation of India's progress. I'm happy to share that we have achieved a massive progress in the power sector in last 1 decade or so. We successfully met a record power demand of 250 gigawatt with minimal shortages. Our total installed generation capacity has nearly doubled, rising from 249 gigawatt in 2014 to 466 gigawatt as of January 2025. We have added 136 gigawatt of renewable capacity, increasing the total non-fossil based generation capacity of 220 gigawatt. We are well on track to achieve our target of 500 gigawatt of non-fossil based capacity by 2030. Our transmission sector is one of the world's largest synchronized grids today, which is capable of transferring 119 gigawatt of power across the country. This achievement ensures seamless energy flow, fulfilling the vision of one nation, one grid, one frequency. Transmission sector further requires an investment of rupees 9.166 lakh crores, with over 30% coming from estates for intrastate transmission. In distribution sector, under various Government of India schemes, that is DDU, GJY, IDPS, and Saubhagya, projects worth rupees 1.85 lakh crores have been implemented. Additionally, rupees 2.78 lakh crores has been sanctioned under the RDSS for infrastructure and smart metering. As a result, power availability in rural areas has risen from 12.5 hours in financial year 2014 to 22.6 hours in financial year 2025. While urban supply has improved to 23.4 hours, ensuring more reliable electricity for all. To meet the growing power demand, the National Electricity Plan has been prepared for the generation and transmission sectors till 2032. The plan targets the addition of 1.91 lakh circuit kilometers of transmission lines and 1,307 GVA of transmission capacity by 2032 to support India's goal of installing 500 gigawatt of non-fossil energy by 2030. The projected investment requirement up to 2030 is to the tune of rupees 42 lakh crores. One key intervention has been the additional borrowing space of 0.5% of gross state domestic product, that is GSDP, allowed to state linked to reform in the distribution sector. Friends, looking forward, I want to emphasize that we will take all measures to ensure all India state transmission projects required by 2030 as per the resource adequation plan are bid out progressively by 2027. All government establishments should be fixed with prepaid smart meters. Government department dues and subsidies should be paid in time. Cost-effective tariff and fuel and power purchase costs adjustment is put in place for automatic monthly adjustment of fuel and power purchase costs. Efforts should be made by states to list their state power utilities to improve transparency and efficiency. In the end, I must acknowledge that it is truly pleasing to witness government officials, power sector leaders, and stakeholders actively engaging and sharing insights in this webinar. I look forward to today's discussion yielding clear solutions and actionable plans to tackle both existing and emerging challenges while fostering a financially robust and environmentally sustainable development plan. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your address, sir. May I now call upon Srimati Vidyavati, Honorable Secretary for the Ministry of Tourism, for a closing remarks.
Good evening and namaskar to everyone. Today's discussions on the theme investing in economy saw participation of 23 ministries, eminent experts from various sectors, and close to around 17,000 participants to discuss ideas, issues, and perspectives on how we go about implementing the budget announcements of 2025-26. First of all, we are acting extremely fortunate to benefit from the vision and guidance of the Honorable Prime Minister, who set us thinking in the right direction of Viksit Bharat 2047 through his very inspiring address and guidance to all of us. Our gratitude to the Honorable Ministers who were there as a part of the discussion. I think today's discussion, we've been able to identify, sir, the important challenges and pressing issues and a possible approach towards implementing the budget announcements as we go forward. I would like to just say that it's very, very important that this discussion is not limited to today, but we actually continue this dialogue and partnership with the stakeholders and co-create solutions for each of our sector. A special word of thanks to the panelists, to the experts who spent the day joining us, guiding us, and inspiring us with their ideas and thoughts. Thanks to the audience, and a special word of thanks to the entire NIC team, which ensured seamless connectivity today to make our deliberations smooth and very convenient. Thank you all. Jai Hind.
Thank you, ma'am. That brings us to the end of the session. Thank you. Marathon.